Hey there. Hello. Hello, Belmonts and Pasta. How y'all doing? Good. Ah, yeah, Belmonts. I'm really sorry. That's some messed up stuff. Please stay safe as much as possible. I actually have a friend whose parents are doing a very similar thing with the like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, it kind of is. They were saying that they're amazed that their parents haven't gotten sick yet. They're just kind of out doing whatever. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. That's rough. Try to keep everything sanitized and make sure they don't touch anything that you have to touch. That's that's about all I can think of. Yeah, no. That's a I had the same problem except in my case it was because I had the wrong kind of cable plugged in. I had like a old Cat 4 patch cable. I don't even know why I had it, but it was not great. Apparently Bucky is going to be joining us later. They are still on their way home. So, we'll definitely still be reading by the time they get back. Yeah, so what I'm going to do tonight, I guess I'll start. Oh, okay. And hi clever, I assume. Yes. Cooking spaghetti in the kitchen with no view of the television. Nice. All right. Well, we've got enough people to begin. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to finish reading the last like three chapters of negotiated consent. Um, the ghost of Willet Homestuck. Woo. We're going to read the last three chapters of that, which is not a whole lot. The first chapter does have some mildly not safe for work content. It is nothing explicit. It's nothing like, you know, above what would be like PG-13 rated, to be honest. Maybe a little bit beyond that, but nothing smutty. However, if anyone has any kind of problems with that stuff or is triggered by that stuff or anything like that, I would say probably about 15 to 20 minutes you want to not listen to this, and then we'll be beyond that. Um, but that's the only part of what we'll probably get to tonight. That's not safe for work. So when I'm done reading that, I'm gonna read Heir to the Listless because I think it's really good and I really like it. And because I guess what we're going to be doing with the Will It Homestuck community stream, I'm not going to like read my own stuff because that seems gauche. So I'm going to use this as my opportunity to platform myself. So we'll read that. And whether or not we start from where Bucky and Clever left off or from the beginning, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So let me get my thing going here and make sure that I'm... Yeah, sure. Okay, cool. I'm pretty sure that that's visible. All right. So for those of you who did not read last time, this fic was my reaction to the last update, and I didn't like some things about it. I won't go too much into that because I don't know how everyone here feels about Homestuck 2 discourse. But basically, I wrote a Rose, Jade, Kanaya polyamory fic. So at this point in the story, Jade and Rose were super awkward, and Jade kissed Rose just kind of, like out of nowhere, just like, I don't know what I was thinking. They actually talk about it and decide that they're actually kind of okay with that. This is the universe where everybody talks to each other. So this is the not safe for work chapter. Or mildly not safe for work chapter. So the end of the last chapter, they're all sitting down together and talking, and Rose and Jade kiss. Yes. Like a little explosion right under my skin. That doesn't feel quite like the right way to put it, but holy shit. Can we do that again? It was definitely her voice coming out of her mouth. She was definitely saying those words. This was definitely real and actually happening and not some kind of dream. It's real. It's really happening. This isn't how I thought it would go. She still wasn't sure why she decided to kiss Rose the first time. All those years of wanting something and just decided to act, and she knew in her heart that it was wrong because Rose hadn't asked for that, hadn't said it was okay. She didn't deserve to be forgiven for it, but she apparently was. It didn't feel entirely real. Jade's lips still tingled from where Rose had kissed her, and it felt like a long time had just passed. But Jade knew it had hardly been a second. This felt precarious. There were a number of things that Jade very much wanted to do right now, things involving Rose, mainly. But Jade didn't want to push things, didn't want this to turn into something that hurt anyone. It had already felt like it had just hatched, that it was so vulnerable. Rose nodded at her, her heart racing. Jade leaned in again. It was different the second time. This time, Rose moved to the side of her head, pushing aside the bulk of her hair, and Jade felt the bottom of her earlobe in between Rose's teeth, softly bitten. She moaned. Is that okay? Rose's voice in her ear. She nodded and managed something that approximated, uh-huh, and that was about all she was capable of. Her body was having a hard time deciding where it wanted to send all this blood she now apparently had in her, but it definitely wanted to send it somewhere, and Jade was starting to feel lightheaded. At least on some level, it occurred to Jade that she'd been kissed a total of twice so far, and was apparently completely losing her shit. Oh, jeez. What are you going to do if they, they? You mean she? I mean, maybe. Jade glanced over Rose's shoulder at Kanaya, who was still sitting there with her hand on... No, that wasn't right. She was sitting there with both hands over her mouth, blushing intensely and staring at Jade. Their eyes met, and Jade felt the sudden and overpowering urge to close her eyes and turn away. The sensation of fingers on her cheek, dancing down to her chin, lifting her head up. You doing all right? Rose's voice again. Jade nodded. The next kiss was slow and soft, drawn out. Jade felt Rose's tongue touch her lips, and she drew back. I'm sorry, Rose said. Was that too much? Oh, God, no. It's okay, Jade said. I just wasn't expecting it. And wouldn't you know it, Jade's dark complexion had attained a ruddy cast that was surely permanent now. There was no helping it, until her body decided it no longer felt embarrassed with this kind of attention. And that didn't seem particularly likely at this point. Jade put her arms to the side of Rose's waist and kissed her again. This time she was ready when she felt Rose's tongue dance against hers, even if fighting against the urge to simply fall back into a squealing, moaning mess on the couch was taking a good amount of effort on her part. There was a soft touch on her hand. Kanaya? Soft fingers brushed over the top of her hand, and Jade linked her fingers between Kanaya's, working by feel without opening her eyes. Those soft fingers clenched, pulling Jade's hand into Kanaya's. Jade found herself moving in closer to Rose, pressing her body up against the smaller woman's frame, instinctively drawing the three of them together, tighter. Oh, Jesus, I know where this is going. I've seen videos on the internet. Maybe those weren't the best thing to base her experiences on, though. Rose hadn't stopped kissing her yet. She could still feel Rose's hands on her face, and Kanaya's fingers linked to hers, and they were all so close now. Jade opened her eyes at the same moment Rose did, and they both shifted back, the kiss broken again. Rose was blushing and was chewing on her bottom lip. Kanaya leaned over and kissed her wife on the shoulder, right at the base of her neck. Rose closed her eyes and smiled. Now you're just basically writing smut. I'd yell at you for being an ass again, but you actually gave me a perfect scene break. Oh, you've gotta be When did all this happen? She couldn't precisely remember the moment when her robes had come off and been tossed across the room, or who had done it, or when Rose's shirt had come off. Kanaya was the only one still clothed, and I don't want her to be. Oh, shit. I feel this way about Kanaya, too. Jade was feeling extremely self-conscious, not having expected her day to have ended with any of this. Jade had begun it by throwing on her trusty god-tier robes. They were comfortable and fit her perfectly, and she didn't wear anything under them normally. So I guess I'm naked now, and this is definitely happening. Her brain kept yelling at her to cover herself, to grab her robes, or at least cover herself with her hands. One of those hands was still entwined with Kanaya's. The other had somehow found its way behind Rose's back and was gently tracing a line up and down the curve of her spine. Something else he wanted to do? In a series of actions that would have looked intensely awkward to an outside observer, Jade lifted herself and shifted forward, pressing herself against Rose. Rose took that in stride, pulling Jade in, something that felt far better than anything had any right to. Her chest rested against Rose's shoulder, and her face was close to Kanaya's now, close enough to touch. Kanaya was looking directly into Jade's eyes, and Jade wasn't sure what to think. She looked a little bit shocked that this was all happening, but not in a way that suggested she wanted it to stop. I would not object if you were to... Kanaya trailed off and caught the edge of her top lip in her teeth. Oh, you're gonna kiss her now, too? Yes. Having never kissed a troll before, Jade wasn't sure what to expect. Kanaya's lips were soft and smooth, but seemed somehow more resilient than Rose's, tougher. Jade found herself wondering if that same kind of feeling was true of the rest of her body. She tasted faintly like mint, a product of the lipstick she was wearing, or maybe trolls just always tasted little bit like mint. Another experiment to conduct, maybe, for scientific purposes. She was still kissing Kanaya when Jade felt something else, a wet, sucking sensation on a particularly sensitive spot on her chest. Jade moaned and broke away from Kanaya without even really meaning to. She looked down to see Rose grinning at her. For scientific purposes. It's sweet, I suppose, to see them all like this. Yeah, weird what communicating feelings can accomplish, right? Well, that's not always how it happens. Sure, and I didn't want to focus on how bad things can possibly be. I've experienced enough trauma in my life that trauma porn doesn't really have a lot of appeal. I'd rather show a gradient of experience. Anyway, thanks. You gave me another time lapse, and I wanted to keep this to M-rated. Okay. That was a lot to process. A lot indeed. All of the clothes had been scattered to the far corners of the room. Jade's robes tossed, Kanaya's skirt and shirt piled surprisingly neatly at the foot of the couch, Rose's clothes. Who knew where those had gotten to? That all definitely happened. Somewhere in the back of her mind, when she was still entertaining this whole experience as a vague fantasy, Jade had wondered if she would regret it. She wondered if it would all happen and then fantasy would transform to experience, would transform to bitter resentment, a desire to roll everything back and have it never happen. Her catastrophizing, really wish I hadn't used that word, hard to say, mind had played the scenario out, how she would go to June and beg her to use her abilities to roll things back, to hope desperately that the clock could be set back and she would never have made such a horrible decision. But here, on the other end of all of it, lying naked on the couch with a very sleepy Rose on her chest and a somewhat bewildered Kanaya lounging near her feet, Jade didn't feel the regret she'd so feared. It had been different than she'd imagined, sure. In her mind, everything was sweeping and grand and romantic. She and Rose would kiss passionately in a way that made for a cinematic experience, and then everything else, the sex part, to put it bluntly, that would have been perfectly timed and choreographed. It was, of course, nothing like that. It had been awkward and a little bit messy. There'd been a couple false starts, trying a few things out to see what had worked. There was more than one participant involved than Jade had originally imagined. Jade had felt self-conscious and, if she was being honest, more than a little bit nervous. But it had also felt good. Not just good, but liberating. I felt like myself for once. She wasn't being defined by what was expected of her intended role in the game. Instead, she was exploring who she, Jade Harley, was, what she wanted and enjoyed. Jade sighed to herself, feeling like something heavy had been lifted off her soul. Rose was still awake, moving her fingers along Jade's stomach and tracing little lines in the sheen of sweat that was still there. Kanai had tucked herself up neatly on the couch and closed her eyes. Her hand was resting between Rose's legs, and she was smiling. Jade closed her eyes, feeling herself starting to drift. Her phone beeped at her from its place on the floor, still tangled up in her discarded robes. Jade struggled to get up before remembering. Oh yeah, space powers. She drew the phone over her, squinting at the screen. From Carcat.
Hey, just a quick FYI. Not a big deal or anything, but whatever you were doing in there was loud enough to be heard outside. I'm trying to be polite, but it was obvious what you were doing. Dave and I have been waiting for like 10 fucking minutes, Jesus Christ. So put some damn clothes on and come help us. We have groceries to put away.
Oh, fuck.
Yes, that much was clear from the sounds.
Catastrophizing. Thank you. All right, next chapter. Carcat. So, yes, I love writing him, apparently. So in this next chapter, all of these, they are taking place concurrently. I'll read the left and then the right, but they're basically taking place at the same time. Text between Dave and Carcat.
I swear to God, Dave, they were fucking in our living room, on our couch, where we sit, all three of them.
Can't we just spray up some Lysol or some shit? You know, Febreze that motherfucker down a little. Yo, you gonna act like we ain't done the dirty flirty on the damn couch? I didn't know you were ashamed of me like that, Carkles.
That isn't the point. Dave, they were fucking on our couch. The couch that we use.
The Garden Club, which is my name for this ship. Tentacle Therapist, Garden Gnostic, and Grim Auxiliatrix. I'm embarrassed and I'm gonna die. We may have gotten a little bit carried away toward the end, but I still think that Carcat was overreacting. At least Dave seemed to take it well in stride. Rose, he laughed for 30 seconds solid, claimed he knew it all along, and then insisted you give him the most uncomfortable high five I have ever seen. Either you're being overly charitable toward your brother, or we are resorting to extremely non-standard definitions of words now. Oh God, I'm so embarrassed and I'm literally going to die. Why'd we all do that? What the hell was I thinking? We are all adults who made our own decisions. And it just so happens that this decision was to engage in sexual intercourse on Dave and Carcat's couch. Several times. I'm embarrassed and I'm going to die.
Okay, what do we do now, though? They didn't really say anything. Are we supposed to tell anyone?
How the hell are you planning on working that into casual conversation? Yo, I just peeped my sis and two friends totally heading down to the bone zone on my couch. Just a quick FY to the eye for you. How about them sports?
That does sound pretty fucking stupid when you put it that way. But, like, do we just pretend nothing happened? Should we ask them if they need anything from us?
More couch space, maybe?
Oh, God, fuck you.
So, what are we then? What are you two to me? Do I have girlfriends now? What do you want us to be? Kanai and I talked about this, so we should talk to you about it too. This doesn't have to be anything if you don't want it to. It can be a one-time thing if you want. We're both okay with that. But also it doesn't have to be a one-time thing either, if that's not what you want. We are eminently flexible, after all. Now that I typed that, I realize the innuendo of my statement. I assure you this was not originally implied. But yes, Rose and I have discussed our own comfort levels and are both feeling quite adventurous as far as the general trajectory of our relationship goes. Relationship? I guess I never really thought about that part of it. I got really caught up in thinking about what it would be like that I never really stopped to think what would happen next. I guess that makes me kind of silly, doesn't it? Yo, seriously, this isn't our call to make. Like, we can't go telling other people this shit. That would be mad uncool violation of the trust that's been placed in us by the virtue of what we witnessed with our own ears.
I know that. It's not good at dealing with all this kind of stuff. At least Kanaya knows what the fuck she's doing. Kind of. And Rose is smart. But Jade seems really unsure of herself. What if she gets hurt? What if she ends up with a secret love child and is then forced to hide them away for 15 years and then only brings them up when she's forced to? What then, Dave? Huh? Dude, that is a really specific example. Like, WT fuck Brosif and the amazing technique what the fuck Dreamcoat? Oh shit, that sounded better in my head. Well, excuse me for being worried about my friends. Rose knows her shit, dude. She and Kanaya are like the most stable couple ever. Probably the best case scenario possible. If I may interject, I do not believe it makes one silly to want something, or someone. And while your initial approach was perhaps not ideal, we seem to have corrected course quite admirably. It's not like we're strangers, Jade. And it's not like I haven't thought about it, at least in passing before. You don't have to act like you're walking on eggshells around me. Or Kanaya, for that matter. So out with it. What do you want? Oh, God. I'm still nervous about this. This feels harder than what we all just did. I guess. I really want to keep seeing you two. Like, we already talk and we're friends, and this was a lot of fun, too. It feels right, you know? I'm not sure what I want to move... If I want to move in with you or anything... Although, I don't know, I want to stay at Dave and Carcats now. Woof. Pardon me, but a secret love child, really? That seems like an extremely specific detail to throw in there. Is that, as the kids say, a dig? Look, I'm not going to shit on you for setting things up the way you want. I'm just not where I would have gone with it. But again, no shade to you and your buddy. We are not buddies. Mm-hmm. We are most assuredly not. Sure. I think I've already made my thoughts on you two clear. No one needs to hear me go through all that again. I still don't understand why you choose to cede so much control to them. They're basically insects underneath your feet. You could make them dance to your whims if you wanted to. You could make them literally do anything you wanted. You choose to step back and let them breathe? To let them explore who they are? They're not even real. Just as real as me, or Calliope here, or you, Dirk. I'm real. Sure. As the kids say, oof. Text between June and Jade. Do you mind if I seek some general sisterly wisdom on something? But of course, dear sister. What elder wisdom can I impart on you?
June, I'm 8 months older than you.
That's just details.
Okay, so please do not freak out or get weird about this. I may have started a relationship with Rose and Kanaya. It wasn't my original plan, but I'm here now and I actually really like this and I don't want to fuck things up. So tell me, how does your thing with Roxy and Callie work exactly? None of you live together. How does everything, work?
Wait, back up a minute. You're just gonna skim over that you're in a relationship with Rose and Kanaya, like, at the same time?
Yes. Are you by any chance going right now?
Maybe.
I think I'm gonna ask June if I can move in with her. She'd be cool with this whole thing, and I kinda don't want to be alone.
If you do change your mind in the future, we would be happy to have you stay with us, for as long as you need or desire.
Thanks, Kanaya. That means a lot to me, but I kind of do want my own space too. And I know June will be low-key. Sorry, that's not supposed to be an attack. It's fine you want to define your own boundaries. Us being lovers or girlfriends or whatever you want to call this doesn't mean we all can't have our own identities. That would be intensely unhealthy on so many levels. Yeah, but I can come over to stay the night if I want, right? I mean, if I felt lonely or something. Of course.
We would be more than happy to have you. That time the innuendo was on purpose.
Okay, I'm glad you approve of our situation, although I'd appreciate you maybe not just tell everyone about it.
Sure thing, my lips are sealed.
But I had a more general question regarding some slight awkwardness that came up. I'll spare you the details, but suffice to say I maybe feel a bit like I made Dave and Carcat feel a little bit uncomfortable. I was wondering if I could move in with you, maybe.
Of course. We can make you a little extension of the house. Whatever you want. How'd you make those two feel uncomfortable? Have sex on their couch?
Yeah, that's so funny and unrealistic. We should definitely not pursue that line of inquiry anymore at all, ever. Okay, June's okay with me staying with her. Actually, she seems really excited by the whole thing.
That doesn't really surprise me very much. I'm glad, though.
And you're both okay with me staying over whenever? Yes, that sounds delightful. And you're both okay with all of this, in general? Our whole relationship, I mean, whatever this turns into?
Absolutely.
I have a number of rather salacious thoughts regarding that matter, best brought up in a time and place that can be acted upon properly. Also, yes, as a general statement of support. There's no sense of drama here.
Is that what you're about, then? Just making things dramatic and horrible for its own sake?
Well, if there's no conflict, then no one will care about the story.
You do realize that there are other frameworks for storytelling, especially when a story can examine storytelling styles that fall outside traditional three-act structure. My intent is to have a story driven by expanding character relationships. The reader continues to be engaged because they want to see what happens next. In particular, I tend to use a rising, falling, rising style. Build up to a critical event based on the character conflict. Resolve that, then build a gradual resolution that reveals aspects of the characters.
Isn't that boring?
I don't find it boring, so by extension, at least some of my readers won't find it boring. I'm literally doing this for free.
June, can I ask you another kind of weird question?
Yeah, how weird are we talking here? Secret baby weird or just normal weird?
Is it strange that I think I'm falling in love with them? Like, this all's just started and I already feel like it makes sense for me, and I think they both feel the same way about it, just from the stuff they say and do. I don't want to make it look like I'm just desperate or lonely.
That doesn't sound weird to me at all. You've known Rose for a long time, and you've known Kanaya for a few years now. You're allowed to have feelings, Jade.
Is it okay if I say something that might sound kind of stupid and silly? What in your experiences with our general group of friends and found family makes you think anyone would have any issue with a little silliness and stupidity? Rose likes the human sarcasm a lot, obviously. But yes, sincerely speaking, that would be fine, I am sure. Please don't take this the wrong way or get weirded out. I'm pretty sure I'm in love with both of you. Both of you. So, yay feelings. Well, this is probably a discussion best taken to a forum where things like body language and tone...
Oh shit, I didn't read a part. Jade closed the pester message window and wipes tears from her eyes. There was a smile on her face, and for the first time in a long time, her heart felt light. Probably should have read that before I read the dialogue. Anyway. Can be included so as to properly express emotional depth. Speaking for myself, I think I'm feeling the same way, at least a little bit.
I will admit that my own feelings are somewhat complicated on this matter. I do not like to ascribe such an emotion readily to my own feelings. Understand that this is my own hang-up and nothing to do with you or anything you directly control. But please do not misunderstand me. I can absolutely see myself moving in that direction with time and already regard you with feelings that are considerably more layered than simple human lust.
She means yes, but it'll take some time for me to fully express it.
That is essentially accurate.
Still tearful from before, Jade set the phone down and began to cry in earnest. It wasn't the kind of crying precipitated by sadness or despair, but rather the unspooling of long-suppressed emotions and a desire for intimacy that had gone painfully unfulfilled for so long. If anything, Jade Harley felt more like herself than she had at any previous point in her life. All right, and now chapter 9. The kids do indeed say oof. My digs at the update are very subtle and hard to catch. It's easy to miss them. I'm very subtle when I write. It's one of my best qualities, which I think is one of the things I had my narrator insert say. Jade does need hugs. All right, chapter 9, Moving Day. And this is the last chapter. Yes, we're all very subtle. It's a very subtle fandom from a very subtle work of fiction.
Why Carcat keep making such a big deal about you taking this couch anyway? He does know we can just alchemize another one, right? It's not like you need this one specific couch all of a sudden.
June's voice was a tapestry of confused amusement. Jade avoided saying anything.
Right?
June asked.
It's just a random couch, right?
Jade laughed.
Yeah, Carcat's just being weird.
June wasn't entirely sure that Carcat's just being weird quite answered her doubts about the matter, but she wasn't going to press the issue any further.
It's just,
June started. Okay, maybe she was going to press the issue just a little bit.
like when he let me use his picnic blanket that one time, and then I ended up getting sick and throwing up on it. And even after he washed it, he insisted that I keep it. And I'm just wondering, what could have happened that he'd insist you take an entire couch?
June laughed. It was probably a crazy story.
Did you throw up too? Oh man, that must have been something to clean up.
Yeah,
Jade said.
it was definitely something, all right.
Pausing for a minute, Jade concentrated on the couch in the middle of the living room. As June watched, it shrank down until it was the size of doll furniture. June tossed the now miniaturized couch up in the air and caught it. Having a space player for her sister sure was awesome when it came to moving furniture around. June? Jade's voice was a little bit smaller, more thoughtful. June turned to look at her.
You ever wonder about how things could have been different, you know?
June wasn't entirely sure she did know. Apparently that feeling was conveyed by her expression clearly enough that Jade picked up on it.
I mean, sure, I guess.
June shrugged.
In what way, though? Like, can't everything always have been different? That's just how life is.
Jade turned her powers to a pile of boxes in the corner of the living room, reducing each one in size until they all fit neatly into a small basket she brought along for the task.
I mean that things could have been fundamentally different, with small changes. Do you ever just think about that?
It wasn't something that June thought about much. There was a moment, months before, when it seemed like something that was going to happen, a kind of fundamental shift in reality. But then she'd thrown up all over Carcat's blanket and spent the next day in bed with Roxy and Callie both fussing over her. She'd been fine, just something that didn't quite agree with her stomach. But since then...
I don't know, Jade.
June shrugged again.
It's like, this is how things are, regardless. It's kind of like when I used my powers. Things just were the way they were. And I was the only one who knew any differently.
This is so absurdly banal, and I absolutely hate everything about it. What's driving these people? What's pushing them to achieve their truest selves? Wait, do you mean the truest selves that are trapped inside a robot due to their increasing dissociation from reality, or the truest selves that are genocidal fascists? Oh, go fuck off. I'm disappointed. Weren't you going to respond with a wall of nearly incomprehensible gibberish that reads like it was cribbed from a random collection of Philosophy 101 textbooks?
I guess you're right,
Jade said, her voice sounding a little bit uncertain.
I still get those flashes from time to time, seeing things that don't feel like I necessarily should be seeing them, like I'm connected to something bigger than this world.
Does that bother you?
June bent over to grab the basket full of boxes for Jade.
I mean, is it something you'd rather not deal with?
It was Jade's turn to shrug.
I don't think so. It's so fleeting. And Kanai and Rose are helping. I feel more grounded. Does that make sense?
Sure,
June grinned at her sister.
as much as anything else.
I still think she should have made a choice. What she did was a cop-out.
She did make a choice. Choosing not to decide between a binary is still making a choice. You think it's a coincidence that a trans woman gets to avoid suffering only by rejecting a binary presented to her?
You're being very on the nose.
I know.
I still think this is all a bunch of shit.
You just kind of declared that June Egbert exists in the first place, and now what? The stakes are just gone? So you want me to dig into the metaphysical justification for a character's gender inside of a novella-length work? Seriously? How is any of this supposed to be believable? Says the man who wants to have his narrative cake and eat it too. Suspension of disbelief called It Wanted to Tell You to Go Fuck Yourself.
Now who's being childish?
In this case, me. In most other cases, you two. As they were walking toward the door, Dave and Karkat came in from around the corner. June got the sneaking suspicion that they had been waiting around that corner specifically to say goodbye to Jade. Dave walked over and hugged Jade tight.
Take care of my sis, okay?
Dave said. June saw her nod and smile at him. When Dave let Jade go, June could see tears in her eyes. Hey, Dave looked at her. It's cool. You're just moving to June's is all. I just couldn't think of what else to say that sounded better than, yo, we'll see you for movie night tomorrow. Jade grinned.
Thanks.
Karkat stood in front of Jade and looked down at the ground.
Kanai is my friend, he said tersely. Please, make sure she's taking care of herself. I'm doing the thing Dave just did.
Jade grinned and leaned forward to hug Karkat. He made a face, but let her hug him briefly.
Thanks for the couch, Karkat,
Jade said. June saw Karkat's face turn a little bit red. She looked at him closely.
What's with the couch thing, Karkat?
June asked. She was genuinely curious now what this whole couch mystery was about. Surely there must be some big, probably entertaining story behind the couch thing.
Don't worry about it, Karkat muttered. It's nothing.
Oh. June felt a disappointment growing in her gut. She really wanted to know what the couch thing was about now. Maybe some other time.
Are you both ready to do the thing at my place? Yes, we have made the appropriate preparations already. I take it you're both on your way.
Yep. Oh, Rose, can you tell me something? Karkat seemed to have this weird thing going on about his old couch, and he gave it to Jade, so what's that about? So weird, right?
Yep. Definitely the weirdest. I have no idea what that was about. None whatsoever. Probably just Karkat being weird.
June put away her phone and shook her head. That Karkat. June's house wasn't actually very far away from where Dave and Karkat lived. It only took about 10 minutes to fly between the two. The siblings sat down right by the door, and June fished into her pocket to get her keys.
Oh, yeah,
she remembered just in time. Reaching out, she handed Jade a silver key.
And here's yours. I mean, it's kind of pointless, but I think it's a nice little tradition. Shows you're part of the household.
Jade was grinning at her, and her eyes were a little bit watery.
Thank you, June. This means a lot to me.
I would say give it a try, but I don't actually lock the door, so...
She trailed off and motioned to Jade.
But, why don't you do us the honor of opening the door?
June stood back a little bit and braced herself. She was just about vibrating from excitement. Jade opened the door and stepped inside. From inside the house, two women called out, "Welcome home." And June saw Jade drop her things and run in to gather Rose and Kanaya up in her arms. June hung back in the doorway and watched the scene unfold. Jade was kissing both of them and in turn and holding them close. They were adorable together, and June was happy for her sister. She was someone whose life had been so frequently defined by an almost paralyzing loneliness, and it was nice to see her so happy. Sometimes a decision is an active process, a definitive course of action that cuts across and makes bold changes. Sometimes it's a subtle thing, minor adjustments and course corrections that have an impact in the cumulative rather than the acute. And sometimes the decision is simply choosing to step back and let events unfold, to let the people affected choose for themselves and find what happiness they can in a world that is often cold, cruel, and indifferent. June watched her sister and the two women who loved her talk excitedly about their plans for the day, about how they were going to unpack and move everything into the space they were constructing for Jade, about other stuff that was whispered more than spoken, and June was glad she couldn't hear because it felt private, and she didn't want to intrude on that. June watched all of this, and in her deepest heart, she felt like I made the right decision. All right. And that is the end of that one, which exists in its own little pocket bubble of alternate universe, not epilogue. Yeah, the couch thing, I just kind of went with, and it felt like a good way to show some stuff about how Karkat feels without being super blatant about it. I love my digs at Dirk too. I don't like alt Dirk. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna read Heir to the Listless because I really like that story. But I know that Bucky and Clever read some of Heir to the Listless. So my question is, do y'all want me to start from the beginning or from chapter 3? From the beginning. Cool. They're not long chapters. This one they're actually like 1,000 words or less, so I will probably get through. Yeah. I mean, Alt Dirk is an interesting character. He's a jerk. He is an interesting character though, and he has his place in the narrative. I don't think he's being utilized particularly well, but I mean, whatever. Okay. I'll start from the beginning of this if everyone wants me to. Like I said, they're not long chapters. I will probably get through. I'm going to try to get through the coming out chapter because that's basically half of the story, and I really like the way it came out. I will definitely check that out. I think I'm subscribed to you on AO3. I will make sure. I'll check it out when I get done with this. Okay, here we go. This is Heir to the Listless. This is my June Egbert coming out story. Everyone has to write a June Egbert coming out story. It's the law. This is set in. So this is continuity divergence. It's set after Act 7. The epilogues didn't happen. John Egbert knows that it's over now. John knows they won the game. John knows the world of Earthsea is full of infinite possibilities and that he can find his place in it anywhere he wants. So why is it that he feels like he doesn't have a place in this new world at all? A story about healing after trauma, exploring self-identity, and learning to live as your real self. This one does have again, somewhat M-rated chapter, but it's not for a while. We're not going to get to it tonight. It's like chapter 12 or something like that. So, the rest of it. The big trigger warning here is it talks a lot about depression, like a lot. So if you're particularly sensitive to discussions of that, you might want to tune out now. It definitely gets better, and it gets better relatively quickly, but it's kind of oof in the beginning, so be aware. Chapter 1, John Egbert, Reflect on Your Life Choices. There was a certain point on the horizon which, when the sun finally crossed that mark, just let all of the light into John Egbert's bedroom. Literally all of the light. It would transition from being just dim enough to remain pleasant to bathing him in a blinding symphony of wake the fuck up inside of 10 minutes. He hated it. Could have just put the blinds down. Could have done a lot of things, really. But those are things that require a level of commitment to action that John just wasn't able to muster these days. He barely remembered going to bed the night before. Roxy had already been asleep for at least 2 hours, and he'd found himself no longer able to avoid sleeping and wandered in and collapsed around, 4 in the morning? That sounded right enough. It didn't actually matter, because what else was he doing besides lying in bed all day anyway? John rolled away from the harsh late morning sunlight and covered his head with a comforter that smelled vaguely of Roxy's soap. That was enough to provoke a smile, but only a brief one. My head feels like shit. It did indeed. A headache that was working its way up from behind his temples and all the way back around to his neck. Too bad the God tier didn't mean no pain. That seemed like kind of a weird oversight in retrospect, but he wasn't the one making the rules. fuck. That was how his manifesto would begin, of course. A muffled cry muttered into the covers. A statement against the conformity of the modern world and all its excess, and which was silly. Earthsea might have modern conveniences, but it was hardly the modern world in any meaningful sense of the word. A world aged up by his goddess sister, populated by hard-shelled living chess pieces, descendants of Alternian refugees, and a surprisingly large number of salamanders. There were, as of last count, about 7 humans on the planet. There was no war, no poverty, no material want of any kind. Between the alchemizers, the god powers, and the general commitment to not fucking this shit up again, Earthsea was essentially paradise. It was a perfect world, a world unspoiled by the excesses of the capitalist hellscape that he'd escaped from. You know, when the world had ended. Another powerful statement of solidarity with the other peoples of Earthsea. John didn't want to remove his face from the covers because that would mean facing that eye-stabbing solar orb again. He very much didn't want that. No one wanted that. "Hey, babe, you still in here?" Roxy's voice from the hallway. She sounded a lot more awake than John was even ready to feel right then. Veritable poetry of a struggle that was now utterly pointless, its goals having all been accomplished and its stalwart defenders left with nothing but free time. Why do I feel so... Searching for the right word. The one that would sum everything up and bring that singular moment of clarity. Except that wasn't how things worked. "Jesus shit, John. You sound like a big old pile of puke right now." Roxy's voice was at the doorway now. She sounded actually pretty cheerful. She'd been doing a lot to help build new Cantown Municipal Unincorporated District. No, wait, we can't just call it that. Shut up, Carcat. The name was Dave's idea, sort of. Call it a collaborative effort. Feel so goddamn... Roxy was in the bedroom now, walking toward the bed. John felt the bed depress with a soft poof as Roxy sat down near him. "Babe, you planning to get up soon? I was wondering if you wanted to go see Rose and Kanaya for lunch." Rose and Kanaya, who were basically the perfect couple ever, supportive and loving, always there for each other. The first thing they'd done was get married. Human married, Kanaya liked to say, and build a ridiculously perfect house for themselves. John loved both of them to death, but sometimes lately it felt like a bit much to be surrounded by that much love and playful banter, and maybe sometimes he just wanted to be by himself. Was that really so much to ask? "I don't know," John muttered softly. "Don't feel great. So goddamn incredibly. Kinda just want to stay in bed." He felt Roxy pat him lightly on the butt and laugh. "Okay, sure thing. You want me to grab anything? Troll Burger King? I still can't believe they fucking called it that. It wasn't even a thing on Alternia. I swear that was Carcat's idea." John managed a bit of a laugh. "I'm fine, Rox. Seriously, I'm totally fine." Roxy made a noise that suggested she wasn't entirely sure that John was totally fine, but she didn't say anything else. "Love you, babe," she said on the way out. She sounded cheerful. Well, sounded like she was trying to sound cheerful. Underneath that, John was wondering if maybe she sounded worried. "Love you too." He wasn't sure if she heard it or not. Wasn't sure if incredibly, completely alone. Wasn't sure if he even cared anymore. Chapter 2, Roxy Lalonde. Wonder what John's deal is. Roxy usually felt that flying had a way of clearing her head. She would come in low over the terrain, skimming just above and weaving in and out of the tree line. Something about the rushing of the wind in her ears and the constant need to adjust for the onrush of the obstacles of the world. It made it hard to focus on her own internal monologue, forced her to live in the moment, and that was usually something she found freeing. Right now, though, she was too pissed off at John Egbert to find the experience anything other than frustrating. Maybe not pissed off exactly, but still. He was being kind of a dickhole about this. He'd lie in bed for hours, and that wasn't even a problem. If he wanted to sleep his time away, what did it matter anymore? The problem was, whenever she asked how he was doing, he'd tell her he was fine, in a way that was so transparently not fine that it was the most obvious thing ever. Hi, Fleece. We're in the middle of Heir to the Listless right now. Well, the middle. We're in the second chapter of Heir to the Listless right now. I swear to God, he is so fucking frustrating when he's like this. That was more it. It was frustrating. John would get into these moods and then he'd just kind of disappear. Even if he was physically there, he would mentally check out and kind of wrap up into himself. He didn't like to talk. He didn't want to do anything. Roxy didn't need him to do anything. She had her own things going on. She was in charge of designing and implementing the vast array of computer systems that would power New Carapacia, the Troll Kingdom, and the Sea Nation. It was an architectural challenge that kept her mind perpetually occupied, and she loved every minute of it. She just wished John would at least talk to her about what he was feeling, at least give her a little peek inside that brain of his. Roxy was hardly a demanding person, but they were in a romantic relationship for a few months now and sleeping in the same damn bed, and she always felt like he was 10 feet away and behind a concrete wall. Roxy landed at the base of the hill where Kanaya and Rose had made their home and pulled out her phone, bringing Pester message up and glaring at the screen. Message to Rose, Tentacle Therapist, and K-Bean, Grim Auxiliatrix. Hey, you benches inside or what?
Yes, we're inside. If you could give us a moment, please. Rose is dramatically underselling the degree to which we have managed to destroy our latest culinary experiment. Most specifically, we have managed to make an egg explode.
Oh yeah? Sounds about right. If it wouldn't be an overly large amount of trouble, you can always help us clean this shit up. Roxy supposed that it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Cleaning up a little egg seemed a bit less annoying than continuing to stew over John's stupid bullshit for a while longer. So Roxy put the phone away and walked the rest of the way up the hill. The house itself was a spectacle. The two women had made it a combination of everything they both held dear, both in terms of style and substance. As such, it combined a sleek, modernistic style of building that Rose preferred with Gothic flourishes that Kanaya particularly enjoyed. A cathedral spire peeked out over the top of the slim lines of the glass and metal building and slanted down to a series of miniature flying buttresses that flanked a giant slide of concrete and more glass. At the edge of the property, after a gentle rise, the whole thing dropped off a cliff to reveal a sweeping lake. It was beautiful and still and quiet. Trees surrounded it, thick with the sounds of nature. The lake itself was so clear that Roxy could swear she saw right through to the bottom. This series of seeming contradictions of style had no right to work nearly as well as it did, but somehow it came together in a way that was not only aesthetically pleasing, but awe-inspiring. Roxy pushed through the large front door and walked inside. She was immediately hit with, "Oh my God, what is that smell?" It smelled like someone had been burning tires in here. She caught sight of Kanaya bustling from the kitchen to somewhere else in the house. "Hey, Kanaya, what the hell?" she called out, and Kanaya stopped.
Oh, I apologize. We have perhaps understated the severity of the situation with regards to the egg explosion.
Yeah, no shit. Roxy looked around. What happened?
It may have been something more akin to 5 eggs exploding after having been accidentally left in a pot for a considerably longer time than originally called for.
Fuck! What'd you do to forget about them for so long? Kanaya blushed deeply. Roxy put on her best smirk and waved a hand. Never mind, forget it. What can I do to help? Kanaya sighed.
If it is not too much to ask, perhaps your void powers would be able to clean up some of the mess for us, or at least lend us a hand in getting the egg off the ceiling. It is quite prodigious.
Roxy nodded and pulled out her phone again. To my main squeeze, ectobiologist. So John could really use your help here. Kanaya and Rose tried to cook. Like, no further info needed, right? Seen by ectobiologist. Fucking really, John? You're just gonna do this? Seen by ectobiologist. Oh my fucking God. He was being frustrating, but she wasn't gonna let it get to her. She was gonna help Kanaya and Rose clean up, and then she was gonna sit with them in their nice home and talk about stuff. Because that was what normal people did. Normal people who weren't gods, or immortal, or anything. Normal people who weren't married to glowing vampires with incredible bodies and impeccable fashion sense. Okay, maybe keep that one to myself. All right, next chapter. All right, and now we are past the part where it was previously read. Chapter 3, Kanaya Merriam, give relationship advice you feel dangerously unqualified to provide. He just bothers me with this shit, Roxy said, her hands moving as she spoke between mouthfuls of store-bought scones. The egg incident was eventually cleaned up, and all parties involved agreed it would be better to forget the whole thing entirely. So Roxy sat down with Rose and Kanaya in their newly aired out kitchen and started to talk. And then talking turned into unloading. Kanaya had a certain experience with this kind of thing. If years of auspiticism had taught her anything, it was how to spot and provide support for a good vent. And Roxy had one brewing that threatened to take out the entire building if it got out of hand. Not literally, of course.
Well, maybe a bit literally. These are gods, after all.
So Roxy got some scones and a glass of extremely sweet iced tea, and was told to make herself at home and please, if she was inclined, to divulge any particular things that might happen to be on her mind. It did not take particularly long for her to get to that point. He lies in bed all the time. Okay, sure. I like a good nap as much as anyone, but, he never wants to get up. He never really wants to do anything.
I think, Rose responded, that our Mr. Egbert might be exhibiting some symptoms of depression.
Roxy rolled her eyes. Oh, you think? Well, no shit, Dr. Brain Professor Ph fucking D. Kanaya clicked her tongue.
Now, this isn't especially helpful. While we all understand that John is obviously showing some signs of depression, I assume that this is a combination of frustration with its effect on his life and a lack of surety about how to help him. Am I correct in making that assumption, Roxy?
Roxy leaned across the counter towards Rose and waggled her eyebrows. Oh shit, Rose. I like your wife. Can I, borrow her for a little bit?
Oh, she's entirely too much sometimes.
Kanaya turned Jade in the face and drew herself up.
I assure you that I am not for let or lease, Miss Lalonde, in any conceivable sense of the word.
So you're saying it'll take some negotiation, Roxy said in a ridiculous comical fashion with an equally ridiculous comical face. At least she seemed to be in slightly better cheer. Fug, Roxy said around a mouthful of crumbling pastry. It's just so hard to figure him out. He always says he's fine, but he never seems fine.
I think that is often the case with those who are not fine,
Kanaya said, glancing over at Rose.
I wish I could give you more specific advice.
Well, shit, Kanaya, Rose interjected. You and Rose have been together for, forever. You must have gotten some pretty good advice.
I have far overstepped my own bounds of advice giving comfort on this.
Oh, Kanaya started.
Of course. Yes, I have all sorts of advice, many of which is very much what you would classify into the good category, and very little of which is in the bad category.
Roxy narrowed her eyes. You're trying to dodge the question. Kanaya sighed.
I'm sorry, Roxy. I cannot give you such advice as I know would help you. As far as general information, I fear it would be mostly sounding frightfully droll. Be considerate of his space, listen to what he tells you, provide him with a safe environment.
She paused, took a breath.
But also do not neglect your own needs out of some desire to help him. Ultimately, this is his own choice, and if he continues to isolate himself in a way that you find hurtful, then he may have to face the fact that his actions will eventually drive you away for good, at least as a romantic partner.
Yeah, Roxy trailed off and took out her phone. She stared down at the screen, playing with the interactive weather app for a minute before opening up her messaging application. She held the screen down, but Kanaya had considerably better than average vision since awakening as a rainbow drinker. To my main squeeze at ectobiologist. Hey, I know you're not feeling this shiz, you need your space and shit, and that's cool as fuck, my dude. Just so you know that I am 200% there for you. Shit, dog, I am 400% here for you. Seen by at ectobiologist. Roxy waited a second. No response. He wasn't typing. She slapped the phone down. Son of a shit. Kanaya sat there blinking at her. Roxy blushed and looked off to the side. I'm sorry. This is just hard. Back when we were still playing the game, we were so busy, running around fighting monsters and shit. But now it's just time, and it's like I gotta feel every second of it when I'm not busy. And John, he just kind of lies there and lets it pass. She groaned and ran her hands back along her head, pushing her tight, bouncy curls back and letting them spring forward again. Guess I don't get it, and that bothers me because I'm used to getting every goddamn thing, you know? Rose set a hand gently on Roxy's arm.
I get it. And I think John is being kind of a dingus here. I think that you need to try to talk to him again and be very upfront about what you're thinking and feeling. And let him know that if he wants to continue to be in a relationship with you, that he'll need to at least communicate some of that. Whatever you're comfortable with, really. But to just suffer in silence isn't fair to anyone.
Bloop. Chapter 4. John Egbert. Avoid uncomfortable conversations with yourself and others. The phone pinged once again to let John know he had a text message. He struggled in the bed and crawled over to where his phone sat on the nightstand. Why does it hurt so damn much to move? He wasn't even sure if it was a physical pain or not. It sure felt like it, but he wasn't sure why that would be. It's not like he really got out much. John just felt sore all over. The phone was there, as expected. He scooped it up. From Roxygen, at Tipsy Nostalgic. So John, could really use your help here. Can I and Rose try to cook? Like, no further info needed, right? Red. Fucking really, John? You're just gonna do this? Red. The most he could manage was tapping the screen twice. He'd seen it. He wasn't even sure what to say in response. It all felt so unimportant, so distant. Oh God, am I freaking crying? John was definitely crying. Big wet tears clouded his vision and slid down his cheeks. His eyes burned and his throat felt tight. Why the hell was he crying? It wasn't like this on the Meteor. Not even after I died. This doesn't make sense. If he could get up, it would be better. Once he was up, he could usually stay up for a while, go through the motions, make sure everyone knew he was still okay. It's not like I'm going to disappear if they stop bothering me for a minute. That felt overly defeatist. Maybe dial it back a bit. John groaned and swung his feet over the edge of the bed, feeling for his slippers, a pair of Crocs that Terezi had alchemized for him once because
They're literally the best thing ever.
before she went back into space to look for Vriska some more. He'd have to thank her the next time she was back on Earthsea because they were, in fact, the best ever. John found the slippers and wobbled to his feet. His muscles protested the sudden change in orientation in a way that John, at the ripe old age of 20, figured old people must feel like all the time.
Okay, so this kind of sucks.
He was still crying, but he didn't know why. But at least he was crying from a standing position. John supposed that was progress. His phone chimed again and he grabbed it. Roxy's cotton candy name appeared on the screen again. Hey, I know you're not feeling this shiz, like you need your space and shit. That's cool as fuck, my dude. Just so you know that I am 200% here for you. Shit, dog, I am 400% here, 5U. Red. He just couldn't do it. Wasn't ready to have a conversation about whatever this was. John was at the point where he couldn't even muster up the energy to define what was happening between him and Roxy anymore.
That's probably rock bottom.
Sure, but what did it matter? John stumbled his way into the master bathroom and fumbled for the light switch, then found his way up to the sink. Staring back at him from the mirror was a strange man. John looked at him. Himself? Sure, I guess. He sucked in his stomach. He never had much of a gut, and his shoulders and hips were narrow. When he was a kid, he'd gotten a lot of teasing for being skinny and kind of weak and girly looking. That got a little bit better once he started high school. Then the game happened, and
I suppose everyone that made fun of me is dead now.
And that was a horribly sad thing to think. With the benefit of hindsight, John realized that a lot of them had been hurting in a lot of ways.
Doesn't really seem fair.
Not really. That he, that man in the mirror, that he would make it out alive when so many billions of others didn't?
Oh God, that's fucking depressing. At least they're alive in some other timeline. I hope.
Still wasn't clear how Paradox Space worked, and he was one of the ones most closely connected to those bizarre intricacies. Not the most qualified to understand them, maybe. That was more Jade or Calliope's thing. That man in the mirror was something else. John looked him up and down, and it really felt like looking at someone else. It was a weird, disconnected experience. And then the feeling was gone, because he was looking at himself.
Why does that feel worse?
He ran his hands up to his face, to his boring, standard men's haircut. His dad would have been proud of him, of course. His son all grown up into a man. John said to no one, raising a hand and twirling a finger in the air.
Maybe I should go over to Rose and Kanaya's place to help clean up, or at least get dressed.
It was a start, at least. So with no small measure of relief, John shut the light off in the bathroom. Couldn't see the man in the mirror very well. He was faint now, just kind of hanging there in the background, looking on. Fuck, whatever. John walked back into the room and over to his dresser. He opened the drawers and selected an outfit, which was harder than he'd expected, because everything felt kind of off.
This is so goddamn stupid. Just pick something, Egbert.
He grabbed a random t-shirt. Turned out it was a shirt for hit 1993 movie Jurassic Park and a pair of baggy jeans. Clothed, John walked slowly out of the bedroom and down the hallway to the living room. He very specifically avoided looking in the mirror in the hallway as he walked past. Okay, we've got a spam bot in the chat. Neat. Neato. How do I get them out of there? Oh, they're not even in here anymore. The bot just dropped in and then left. Thank you. I appreciate it. Like, yay, I made it. I made it. Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure if I could do that from Streamlabs. Well, if they've already been reported, then I think they're gone, but I will do that in the future. I could see out of the corner of my eyes, and I was like, which one of y'all is making a joke about being famous? And it's like, nope, it's a bot. All right. Maybe I do want to be famous, though. I need the clout. All right. Chapter 5. Roxy Lalonde. Confront John about how you're feeling.
Okay, Rox, you can do this. You're a very capable bench of the highest degree. You're going to go in there and explain this whole situation calmly and without yelling. You're going to tell John how you're feeling, and you're going to talk it out, or you give him a little bit of space to make his decision. It'll either work out great, or you'll be estranged from like the one guy you actually want anything to do with here. Maybe Calliope's interested. She seems nice. Real smooth, Rox. Already planning your next move after John. Good luck there.
Roxy rolled her eyes at herself as she landed back outside the house she and John shared off the edge of New Cantown. The house was small but comfortable, almost a cottage, nestled in the middle of a small stand of trees at the edge of a rolling series of grassy hills. New Cantown's climate was typically mild, and the warm late March weather had brought a pleasant tint of green to the whole place. She wished she could just enjoy this instead of having to worry about a million different things. Computers and code and goddamn eggs that just exploded out of nowhere because a certain couple was too busy fucking to check the damn timer. Actually, that was pretty hilarious. Roxy smiled to herself. She opened the small, rustic-looking door and stepped inside. It was a straight shot down the hall to the living room, and she heard the television on.
At least he got out of bed.
It might be baby steps, but it was something. Roxy walked down the hallway. She was committed to this. She was not... I have some thoughts about that. I'll tell you in a minute. She was not going to be angry. She was going to be understanding. She was going to show compassion. She walked into the living room and... Are you seriously watching Con Air? She almost laughed. She was not going to be annoyed. He could do what he wanted with his time. I was getting worried about how this was going to go. Maybe he's just being a gigantic nerd. Oh, hey. John turned to look at Roxy, then turned back to shut the movie off. You know, I think this movie kind of sucks. No shit, brain genius. No, not getting upset. So, Roxy said, sitting near John on the couch. He was wearing clothing at least. That was something. He got out of bed. Those were all valid steps. He was doing okay by John's standards. So, we need to maybe talk real quick, she continued. She could see him tensing up. John Egbert was not a fan of le conflict. Oh, for fuck's sake, John. I'm not going to jump down your damn throat. Not like that, anyway. I'm not mad, Roxy said. We just need to talk about a couple small things. That's what people say when they're mad, and it's about big things, John responded. He looked down at the couch. Did I do something to make you mad? Oh my god, he is as dense as alchemized fruitcake. John, I need you to talk to me about shit. Yep, gonna go right on out with both barrels. Roxy had a strong feeling this was gonna go really well. He inched back a little bit on the couch, away from her. What do you mean? So, I know that maybe you're going through some stuff, okay? And I really want to be there to help you out. because I love you so damn much, but when you shut down like this morning, I don't know what to do. Do I just, like, leave you? Do I sit with you? Do I try to talk to you? She sighed, then continued. John, I didn't exactly grow up in a normal social setting. I don't know how to deal with people very well. When you shut down like that, I don't know what the hell to do, and yeah, it gets frustrating. Maybe even makes me mad sometimes. He inched away from her a little bit more, and Roxy could see that there were definitely tears in his eyes. Oh shit, that was the wrong thing to say. God, I feel like an ass. But also, she had been honest. Maybe a little too honest. I hate this relationship stuff. You're mad at me? John murmured, tears starting to run down his face. Roxy stared without even really meaning to. That was his main takeaway? It's not that so much. It's just that it's hard for me to figure out what you need sometimes. And I think that maybe it's hard for you to figure out what you need. And maybe until we both get that shit sorted, it'd be better if we weren't so much up in each other's space all the time, you know? Oh shit. Roxy? John asked, his voice cracking. Are you saying? Oh shit. Yes, the egg thing was completely unintentional or subconscious. I don't know which. I don't know how brains work. But I originally just wanted to show an example of why Rose and Kanaya can't cook for shit. I thought back to something that happened to me where I forgot I had an egg on and it blew up and hit the ceiling. So I just threw that in there and then kept building on it because I really wanted to drive that point home, and lo and behold, I made an unintentional egg reference. And I think one of my commenters pointed it out, and I'm like, yes, I did that on purpose. I've had a couple of those happen where I just ended up doing something and it worked out. And then I'm just like, yeah, I meant to do that. Chapter 6, Rose Lalonde, answer those urgent text messages. Okay, there's still egg pieces on the ceiling. I don't even understand how that happened. Rose looked up in dismay. The high ceilings that she'd loved so much because of how airy they made the kitchen feel were an annoyance now that she had to fly just to get up there to clean.
It happened because we spent an hour in the bedroom, and then we fell asleep for another hour, and all the water boiled off. Really, Rose, this is basic science.
Was that a verbal barb, Kanaya? Rose smirked at her wife and edged a bit closer, sliding her hand along the counter towards where Kanaya was sitting. Are you engaging in a verbal sparring match with your wife right now?
Oh, is that what we are calling it now? Or are you employing the human sarcasm I have become so fond of?
Okay, that's pretty goddamn adorable. Rose's phone buzzed at her from the granite counter where she'd left it. She completely ignored it. You know how I feel about the human sarcasm, Kanaya. Rose smiled, batting her lashes in an exaggerated way and leaning closer to her wife.
I do.
Kanaya swallowed heavily, and she was blushing deeply. Rose appreciated how her usually unflappable wife seemed to basically come unglued as soon as Rose applied the slightest amount of a certain kind of pressure. Plenty of innuendo to be had there. She leaned in, moving around the counter, and placed her lips within inches of Kanaya's. She could feel her wife's breath on her mouth, could practically taste the last thing she'd had to eat. Rose leaned closer. Bzz, bzz. Oh, for fuck's sake! Rose reached out over to the phone and grabbed it, intending to silence it, when she saw the preview on the lock screen. Oh, for fuck's sake. Her face fell as she unlocked the phone. From Roxy L. Oh shit, I think we just broke up. God, Rose, what'd I do?
What exactly do you mean? You and John? Why don't you start by explaining what happened?
So I did the talkie thing, but maybe a little too harsh. So maybe suggested we take some space.
And to what degree of permanence did you assign this taking some space? Also, what in the ever-loving fuck, Roxy? I thought you were going to ease into this whole thing.
Shit, I know, Rosie. Just kind of happened is all. What the fuck do I do?
Darling, what is the matter?
Kanaya asked, her voice heavy with worry. Rose shook her head. Shit, I think Roxy and John just broke up or something. Her phone went off again and she looked down. Double shit. From John E. Oh shit, I think we just broke up. God, Rose, what do I do?
Okay, yes, this is definitely a thing that is happening. John, is Roxy still there?
No, she went to stay in Cantown in a hotel for a little bit. Said I should stay in the house and we'd figure this out.
That's not the end of the world, then. You two just need some distance for a little bit to figure things out.
Are you kidding? That's like the kiss of death for our relationship.
I take it this is most likely has to do with Roxy's composure earlier today.
Kanaya asked. Rose nodded. It might as well have been a statement. Yeah, Rose answered quietly. I think she and John are going through something. Kanaya actually rolled her eyes, something Rose found rather cute.
Oh, that is a truly surprising development.
Human sarcasm? Rose asked. Kanaya nodded.
I am sorry for them, but not surprised. They seem to have a lot of issues with communication.
I don't know, Rose said thoughtfully. I think there might be something else underlying here. John's demeanor in the last few months couldn't exactly be described as outgoing in general, and John had always been kind of a shut-in, always kept to himself. But he had stopped even being as social as he normally was. It was like he was always closed off, but that last little window into what he was had shut, or at least clouded over. There was something else going on. Rose drummed her fingers on the counter, thinking. To Jade H. at Garden Gnostic.
Has John texted you by any chance, like in the last 10 minutes? Yeah, he told me that he and Roxy broke up. We'll put a pin in calling it that for now. Can you maybe go over and talk to him for a bit, see if he's okay? John hasn't really seemed okay for a little while now. He keeps cutting our calls short or not answering his phone. I went over to visit, but I don't think he was home, or he wasn't answering the door. I've been worried. He seems really down. Well, he's not exactly doing a fantastic job of communicating with his girlfriend. Like, at all. Pretty sure she didn't even fucking break up with him. Just said that she needs some space to think for a minute, and he freaked the entire fuck out. Okay, I'll go talk to him. Woof.
Wait, did you just type out woof?
Maybe?
Okay, this is the best I can do right now, Rose said with a groan. I don't know. I don't know how to do this shit. You're the only girlfriend I've ever had. Kanaya smiled.
You are eminently qualified, I might add.
Thanks, Rose smirked, but her face fell almost immediately. But I don't think I'm qualified to give advice on dealing with a situation that's this complicated. It still feels like more than just relationship drama.
Qualified or not,
Kanaya said,
we will persist in moving forward and arriving at some kind of conclusion, one way or another.
Rose leaned in and kissed Kanaya on the cheek. You're a wiser woman than I, darling. Yeah. Oh, this next one is fun. Y'all are going to want to look at the screen for this one because I put a lot of effort into something that you'll see partway down the chapter. I'll let you know when it's coming up. Jade Harley, check in on your despondent brother. Okay, this was the big moment. She teleported right in. Yeah, right in front of his house, and now all she had to do was knock on the door and hope he was home. It would be rude to teleport inside, but she had an important job to do. This was when Jade Harley was going to go and advise her brother on relationships.
This is definitely something I know a lot about and can absolutely relate to.
Relationships. A thing Jade was definitely very invested in and not in any way slightly off-put by.
Oh, Jesus, shit, this is gonna suck.
To John, at Ectobiologist.
Hey, brother of mine, would you mind a little bit of sisterly company in these trying times?
Jade, I'm not really sure I want to do this right now.
Good, because it would be super rude to make your big sister stand all alone out in the cold like she is right now.
It's like 80 degrees out today, and you can literally teleport.
Super rude. John, let me in, John.
When you say it that way, it sounds kind of like June. I think I told that to Vriska once, I think. Oh, fuck it, I'll get the door.
The door to the house opened a crack and her brother's face appeared. His cheeks were glistening and his eyes were red. Jade felt her heart falling in her chest. The second the door cracked open enough, she pushed it open and wrapped her brother in a hug. She stood at least a half-foot taller than John, and her hugs tended to be a little bit all-consuming. Yes, texting Jade is great. But John leaned into it, sighing heavily. He wasn't happy, but Jade thought that he was at least glad to see her. Come on in, he muttered into her shoulder. I'm a mess and I feel like shit. Jade let him go and closed the door behind her. She sniffed at the air, scenting something vaguely familiar from childhood. Do I smell Hot Pockets? John nodded. It's been, what, an hour since Roxy left the house and you've already descended into Hot Pockets? What the fuck, John? He shuffled his feet and looked very pointedly at the ground. I just feel really bad. I guess I got caught up in my own stuff and I didn't realize how much I was shutting down. Does that sound stupid? Jade smiled at John and patted him on the head. No, I get it. I get how easy it is to get inside of your own head like that. Woof. Did I really just think woof for real? Lucky for you, I have just the thing to keep your mind temporarily occupied. It's time to watch. Jade looked down the hallway to the living room and saw the television. The pause, still framed from Con Air, was still up on the screen. She took a sharp breath and backed off of her original plan immediately. It's time to mess around on the internet for a while. Yay! Jade threw up her hands in a show of excitement, and John smiled half-heartedly. Together, they walked into the living room, and John sat down heavily on the couch, and Jade busied herself with figuring out how to screencast her phone to his television. After a few moments, she figured it out. Okay, what would be fun? What would be very non-threatening and good for you right now? Oh, this is perfect. He likes video games, I think. Does he like anything anymore? Oh, geez, I'm not sure what my brother likes. Video games seem safe, though. She pulled up the website. Dun dun dun. The thing that I spent way too much time working on in Photoshop. This is Video Game Quiz.
Carcat is the best and has the best website ever.
It's carpacia.net/user/carcalicious/thisisthebestvideogamequiz.html.
Hey, Bulge Munchers, you like video games so much, why don't you marry them? No, that sounds too hostile. Listen, just take this quiz and figure out which character you are, you fucks.
And chat just explodes. And these are actually, so I took an actual video game quiz on like some bullshit U-quiz thing, and the questions are actually just literally what they had there. The ad on the side is for carapacia.net, literally your only option. And look, Carcat made it, so you know it's going to be a website. Jade forced a smile that John failed to return. She felt her ears turn down at this and suppressed a little whimper. I'm trying, but this is way harder than I expected. Okay, John. Jade tried desperately to sound cheerful. Let's do this. Good old fun times, just brother and sister. She grinned in a way that felt painfully forced, and John kind of grunted. So, what's your favorite food? It took longer than she expected to finally get John to actually answer the questions, but after 20 minutes of prodding, he was finally there. He kept looking out the window like he was expecting someone to just kind of show up. John didn't think he'd gotten into a fight with Roxy before. Was it even really a fight? No, that didn't seem right. Jade didn't think John had ever actually had to deal with interpersonal conflict in a relationship before. As strange as it sounded, given his god powers and having fought against some of the worst creatures that the Inciposphere had to offer, he still came across as almost passive at times. Okay, and that's the last one. If you could choose any vacation destination, you'd like to go to the mountains. Neat. Let's see what you got. She clicked the button.
Hey, Dingus, you're Lara Croft, but not the kind of sexist design. You're a badass woman who kicks literally all the ass all the time. Guns, check. Bows, check. Fucking pickaxes, double check. Not only are you pretty much the most badass person ever, you're not a jerk. Unlike Rose, who won't text me back about a certain thing I'm writing for a certain person, and she really needs to fucking stop having all the sex with her wife and maybe spend 5 fucking minutes responding to...
The rest is cut off. She doesn't really blow up in this one. She saw John's face light up for a minute, then fall back into the depressed, flat affect it had had since she got there. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a stupid idea in the first place. We can do something else, okay? It's fine. She could still salvage this. She was a good big sister. John gave her a small smile. No, it's fine. It's cool, actually. Thanks, Jade. I know you're doing your best. Her ears flattened again, but Jade stood up and walked over to hug her again. It felt like a sad hug, and he wasn't trying to push her away. Jade, if you don't mind, I'd kind of like to just be alone for a while. I've got a lot on my mind with everything that's happening lately. John, are you going to be okay? John seemed to be spacing out for a minute there. He looked out the window again and didn't even turn when he heard his own name. John? He shook his head and looked at her. Oh, sorry, Jade. I'm okay. I mean, I'm not okay, but I'll be okay. I just need some time to think. I appreciate what you're doing here. You're a good sister, and I love you a lot. With that, he subtly pushed her toward the door. Jade knew how to take a hint. She smiled and waved goodbye, and then she was off, hoping that her brother would be all right by himself. I'm going to get some more water and be right back, because the next chapter is a little bit longer, and I don't want to have to get up in the middle of it. All right. I'm the only writer on AO3. There's actually a lot of really good Homestuck fan writers. I'm consistently impressed with how high the quality level of everything is. Like, just, it's really cool. Nobody gets enough of the attention they deserve on AO3. Yeah, I don't really do Jade blow-ups a whole lot, because the way I wrote Jade in this is a lot more subdued, and also this is at the beginning of her whole character arc. So she kind of has like a very like up and down character arc for my story. I'll read Falter once more eventually, and that's got a lot of Jade in it. I mean, she's like one of the two main characters. All right. Okay. Now, this is the chapter. Chapter 8. John Egbert. Time for a long overdue conversation. So that was silly and pointless, and at least Jade was trying. She might be pretty awkward at times, but she was genuinely trying to make things better. And after all, who was John to make judgments about how other people were awkward? He was the one who'd been so mopey and down in the dumps that he hadn't even noticed how much he was pushing Roxy away. Or not even pushing her away, just putting up a big old wall between them. Stupid Carcat website, Lara Croft. That's like Nora Jake's thing. He's always been so hot for that character. Unlike John, who was... I mean, she is pretty good looking. Yeah, that was it. He liked her because she was good looking. And a badass. She didn't take shit from anyone, and she always got things done. But she was still a woman, and that felt empowering, especially after they redesigned her to put more focus on the characters being totally amazing and less on her having giant breasts. Definitely felt empowering. Empowering. Weird way to put it, Brain. A badass who always got stuff done. Kind of like Vriska. And why are we thinking about her now? She's not even around anymore. John found himself wandering back toward the bedroom. He felt like lying down, but instead of heading straight for the bed, he found himself walking to the bathroom again, turning on the light and looking in the mirror. Yeah, Vriska's gone. Probably forever. I hope she found whatever she was looking for. And Terezi was still heading out there, still poking around the edges of Paradox space and looking for signs that her fellow Scourge sister was still alive somewhere. John slowly shook his head from side to side, breathing out to clear his thoughts. Hey, you remember that time in 6th grade? Oh, okay. So John wasn't sure where this was going, but it felt like something was tickling him in the back of his mind. Sure, that time you imagined what it'd be like to be kissed as a girl. By a girl. I mean, sure, but I didn't misspeak the first time. As a girl. Weird, John said out loud, looking at the man in the mirror. Jeans and a t-shirt, very plain, somewhat rugged, very Terezi or Vriska chic. John turned away from the man in the mirror and walked into the bedroom. He couldn't remember where he'd left his phone. He checked his pocket, but he must have left it back in the living room. John walked back, making sure to avoid the man in the mirror on his way. It wasn't even the only time. Oh shit, you remember that time you tucked between your legs? Holy shit, that was something else, right? John laughed nervously, only to himself. After all, no one else was here to look at him. The phone had to be somewhere in here, right? That was what phones did. They got lost, and you found them in your living room, right by the TV where your big sister had been trying to cheer you up with a stupid video game character quiz.
Oh, fuck it. You know you can be a female character, right? Fuck the gender binary, John. Doesn't mean anything. This is silly. Bros will be proud. Yeah, fuck the gender binary,
John said out loud. The phone wasn't in the damn living room either. In fact, John seemed to distinctly remember leaving it in the bathroom before. They hadn't even noticed putting it down.
What would your name be? That was another one. When's the last time you thought about that, huh? That's a fun little thought experiment. It was last week. No, wait, it was when Jade texted me,
John muttered to themselves.
LOL, right? What would you look like? How about you dress just like Vriska or Terezi or something?
John put their hands to their forehead and squeezed. Their head was starting to hurt and their eyes were watering. Why'd they have to be such a fucking dense jerk to Roxy? She deserved to at least know what was going on inside their head once in a while.
Do you even know what's going on inside your head?
John took a seat on the couch. The phone could wait a minute. Their head was hurting so much.
It's like putting on a costume, isn't it?
Costume, John muttered to himself.
Every single day, you choose to wear it. Your hair and your clothes. What does it mean?
John leaned their head back and groaned.
Remember that time you spent an hour drawing what you'd look like?
What they'd look like as what exactly?
Oh, really? Because you can hide from yourself forever, right? June. When you say it that way, it sounds like...
They weren't sure why they said it out loud, but John's head was hurting even more. Their eyes were getting worse, and they could feel a wet heat swimming behind them. They took their glasses off and set them down on the edge of the couch. The world dropped out of focus.
You'd basically be the same person. That's what you thought to yourself. Because who you are doesn't change.
John got up again, still holding their head in their hands. They walked, more like stumbled, back down the hallway and into the bathroom again. Sure enough, the phone was lying on the counter. And the man was in the mirror. He was looking at them, his face eerily familiar, but somehow off. Blurry. Because John wasn't wearing their glasses. Out of focus. Less real.
Who you are doesn't change. It's okay. Sometimes we just get things wrong at first. It takes time to figure these things out.
But that wasn't possible. Because these things were set in stone. Because everything was determined since the day you were born. Because no matter what you thought or felt inside, none of that mattered. Because they'd been given a role since the day they were first able to draw breath. And no matter how much they hated it, that was it. That was the end. That was determined and final. And the tears were welling up behind their eyes, threatening to burst out. The wet pressure turned into a ring of warmth around the edges, and they felt the tears streaming down the sides of their face. Everything was always the same, all the time. You were whatever they said you were. Forever.
They're all dead.
And what did that even mean? John cursed their stupid brain and their stupid internal monologue because none of it even mattered.
Everyone who said those things is dead. Everyone who told you that you're fixed into the role you were given at birth is dead. Everyone who told you that you're a freak because what's between your legs doesn't match what they expected. They're all fucking dead.
So what if they were dead? That didn't change facts and science.
Has it occurred to you that the people who believed those things didn't have a fucking clue what they were talking about when it came to facts and science?
No. Yes. Maybe.
Has it occurred to you that maybe you know yourself just a little bit better than you were willing to admit?
And they were standing there in the mirror in the bathroom, and then, without warning, the very last straw landed, and with a resounding crack, the entire metaphor came crashing down around them. And she was looking at the man in the mirror, and he smiled. But he was smiling at her. She looked down at herself, away from the mirror, and looked down at her ill-fitting t-shirt and her baggy pants, a t-shirt and pants that belonged to someone else. And for the first time in her life, she actually saw what she was looking at. And there was no stopping the tears at that point, and she didn't even care. She stood there looking at her own hands and her own arms and down at her own legs, and her throat felt tight, and she was sobbing, and she was laughing, and her heart felt like it was about to explode. And it felt like she was lighter than she'd ever been in her entire life.
It sounds kind of like June.
And with another laugh that seemed to come from the depths of her very soul, June Egbert picked up her phone and ran back into the living room to find her laptop. That was an interesting chapter to write. I was trying to condense everything into one chapter, which is obviously not easy to do, but thank you. Yeah, the pronoun shifting thing was it landed for most people. Nice. Yeah, FTL's a good game. I found it way harder than I expected, but also a subtle thing, which I don't know if you'll notice, the chapters, of course, tell you. Yeah, that always happens in that game. The chapters always tell you whose point of view it is, but also the shifts. Once June comes out, it shifts from the Homestuck, carrot, character description to just titles. So it breaks away from the original format of the comic and into a more freeform, open style of narration or of description. Yeah, that I did on purpose. That was not an accident. Chapter 9, Calliope, a penny for their thoughts. Does this have narrator? Oh, yes, it does. I thought I did that. Calliope was quite fond of the cities that the Carapacians had started to build up. They were exceptionally fond of human culture and had in many ways imitated the trappings of late-period human society, while remaining utterly and charmingly unaware of its nuances or particular pitfalls. It was thusly that Calliope found herself sitting in a coffee shop that was literally just called Coffee, that closely copied the aesthetics of the Starbucks chain from Earth. She had brought her laptop with her because she was going to write, goddammit, and this was an environment that perfectly balanced a lack of distractions with a kind of ambient buzz of activity that Calliope found particularly invigorating. As soon as she turned on her laptop, she found herself inundated by a series of peculiar messages from her friend John. From Egbert, John.
Oh my god, holy shit, Callie, I gotta talk to you. I've got super big news. I'm so excited. Are you there? Are you there? Yeah. Yes, John, I'm here. What is it you need? That's just it.
SpongeBob graphic. You gotta look at the SpongeBob graphic. This is very important.
I don't understand. What is this comical sponge conveying? So I had this crazy day, and I realized I've never been John at all. I'm June. I'm a girl, Callie. Isn't that awesome? June, please wait a second.
Calliope typed swiftly, her hands a blur on the keys. Shortly, the change was made. Egbert, June.
I apologize. I had to adjust your contact information on my devices to reflect this new information. I will confess this to you. As you might understand, I have a complicated relationship with what you humans call gender myself. The concept for my people is confusing, both far more rigid than your own, but also I find it more alienating and meaningless. If I had to describe it, I would say I have no gender. I am a gender, as it were. Oh shit, Callie, that's cool. Should I call you something different too? Please call me Callie. My full name is... It brings up unpleasant memories. I would prefer you not use it. Yeah, tell me about it. I didn't expect it to matter so much. I just thought it was a dumb thing I did with Vriska, once. But I actually really like my name, June, like the summertime. Technically, most of June is in the spring, but I get your point. I'm glad you felt comfortable sharing this with me. Do you want me to keep quiet about it? I'm not sure. I was going to tell Rose and Kanaya and Roxy. I owe her an explanation for why I was being so weird.
Callie supposed that June would have a bit of work to put in as far as revealing the truth to everyone. They couldn't think of anyone offhand who might have a real problem with the adjustment. Being in close contact with a number of aliens had something of a moderating effect. Still, it was certainly going to be a bit of an adjustment for them. Callie smiled to themselves, then turned knowingly and stared into the middle distance.
I appreciate you being considerate like that, by the way, with regards to my name and all. Not everyone is.
Why Callie said that, or why they winked to no one in particular in the next moment, will probably remain a mystery for all of time, but they turned back to their writing without a second glance at people who weren't even there in the first place. Their pester message app pinged another notification, and Callie looked down to see that Roxy was trying to contact them. From Milan, Roxy.
Yo, Callie, have you heard from John? He was being a butt, and then he kind of had some words, but
I don't want to be like a shit about it.
I have not heard from John at all. However, I'm sure your partner will contact you shortly.
Hey, you're right. Thanks, Callie. You got a cute butt, too.
My species does not possess much in the butt department, but I appreciate your sentiment, Roxy.
They did feel a bit bad for not explaining what was going on with June, but Callie figured it wasn't their place to divulge such a deeply personal piece of information without June's explicit consent. It would all be settled soon enough, they figured. Satisfied by this conclusion, they returned to their writing and began typing away quickly, their delicate, precise fingers dancing along the keyboard, and a small smile playing across their face. Yeah. Yeah, I love doing the little narrator inserts in a very, like, not, like it's just kind of happening. Because this is not a weird narrator shit story, but I figured I would just throw that in there. Chapter 10, Can I Marry Him? An Auspicious Beginning. He's being a butt, Roxy said, tossing her phone down and slamming the glass down on the counter as if she just finished pulling on a shot of the strongest alcohol the barkeep could provide. Of course, it was Rose and Kanaya's counter, not a bar, and the glass had contained nothing more than a Carapacian knockoff of Dr. Pepper that Roxy seemed to particularly enjoy. Rose made sure to stock it for Roxy, even though neither Rose nor Kanaya could stand the stuff. Kanaya looked closely at Roxy's face.
Are you certain that you are going to be okay with this? You seem extremely upset that John was not communicating with you.
I just want him to fucking trust me, you know? Like, I'm not asking him to always be up my goddamn ass or always spouting out every little thought he has. Just... She sniffled, and it looked to Kanaya like she was about to start crying. She moved quickly to the small tissue dispenser on the counter and took out a pair of tissues to hand to Roxy. I just want to feel like I'm his partner and not some random woman who's just kind of hanging around for no reason. I want to support him. I know he cares about me, but he's always so withdrawn all the time. Like, he's got his shell he crawls into and nothing will convince him to come out. She paused and mopped the tissue at her newly watering eyes. Kanaya took the tissue and went to throw it out. On the way to the trash, she caught sight of Rose, who was hovering in the corner of the kitchen. She appeared to be looking down intently at her phone. Her eyes were wide and her mouth was agape. She typed something frantically, and while she was waiting for a response, Kanaya could hear her muttering under her breath, "What the entire fuck?" Roxy was still crying, and Kanaya decided it would be prudent to simply pass her the entire box of tissues. Roxy was breathing heavily, trying not to devolve into full-on sobs at this point.
Might I suggest that perhaps John is working through some residual effects of the horrors that we all had to endure? We do not all process pain in the same ways, and sometimes it manifests itself in other ways.
Kanaya felt a gentle hand on her arm and turned to see Rose looking at her with raised eyebrows. She tugged on Kanaya's arm in a way that said, "We need to talk right now," and Kanaya put a hand up to excuse herself.
I am sorry, Roxy. I will return shortly, and we can continue this conversation if you would like.
Roxy nodded, trying her best to smile. Rose pulled Kanaya all the way into the study that was off the main hall, away from the kitchen. "Okay," Rose said, taking a deep breath. "Okay, holy shit." Kanaya looked at her wife.
You are considerably less articulate than usual at this present moment, darling. Is everything okay? Are you perhaps feeling ill?
Rose laughed, and Kanaya saw a genuine smile run across her lips. "Oh no, I'm actually feeling like some stuff is making more sense to me."
Okay, darling. I am happy that you feel that something is making more sense to you, but I am feeling quite confused by this line of conversation. I feel as if there is a missing part of it that I have not been made aware of.
"Yeah, sorry." Rose pulled out her phone, unlocked it, and handed it to Kanaya. A pester message window was already open. "Read!" Kanaya looked at the phone, and her eyes widened.
Why does it say... Oh.
From June.
"Rose, oh my god, holy shit. I got something big to tell you, and please promise you won't be shitty about it. You have to promise. I don't think you will, but you have to promise."
Very well, yes. I promise to not be shitty about it. What's the big news anyway? You fell in love with Terezi and you're leaving Roxy for her and moving away to space?
What? No, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The something is that I'm a woman now. I guess I was one all along and didn't realize it, or didn't realize that I realized it. Sorry, this is like a half hour old at the most. Also, please call me June now, because that's my name.
Holy shit.
Remember, you promised not to be shitty.
Oh my fucking god. This is why you were like that. I knew you were figuring something out, but I never would have guessed. Oh my fucking god.
Yo, shit, you think I'm nuts now, don't you?
What? No, why the hell would I think that, June? I know what trans people are, goddammit. It's gonna take some getting used to, but I'm happy for you.
Yee. Thank you, Rose. You don't know how happy that makes me. Oh, you can tell Kanaya if you want. She's cool. Kanaya, if Rose shows you this in the future, hi.
Kanaya handed the phone back to Rose and saw her wife was grinning from ear to ear.
So, I take it this was what was likely weighing on her mind for a while now?
Rose nodded, still grinning.
I am to assume that she has not told Roxy yet.
Rose shook her head and the grin faded.
I don't think so, but I think that's coming soon. Somehow, I have a feeling she's not going to want to do this over the phone.
Together, they walked back into the kitchen where Roxy was sitting. Roxy had a confused look on her face.
Hey, so John just kind of texted me out of nowhere and said I really have to come to the house to see him? I don't know what this is about, but...
Go talk to your partner,
Kanaya said, trying her hardest to be judicious.
I believe it would be for the best.
Okay, sure.
Roxy stood up, finishing the last of her foul-tasting soda, and headed towards the door. Before she left, she turned back.
Thanks for listening, Kanaya. Rose, thanks for having me over. I'll see y'all around.
As soon as the door closed behind her and Kanaya was sure that Roxy was no longer within hearing range, she turned to Rose and smiled.
I do believe I'm going to make June a dress.
And without further words, softly humming to herself, Kanaya walked to her sewing room. Yeah, the whole, not communicating feelings thing that no one has ever experienced in a relationship in real life, ever at all. Yeah, so one thing that's interesting for me is taking stuff that I've experienced being aromantic and kind of transcribing that into other similar experiences for relationship stuff. Because, I don't feel the same way about it that everyone does, but that doesn't mean I can't understand it. So it's always interesting. It lets me explore dynamics that are very different. All right. Chapter 11, Roxy Lalonde. Okay, so this is new.
I still think he's being a butt.
But at least he wanted to talk. That was a big step up from before.
I'm still mad at him. He could have talked to me at any time. He could have done this before I had to fucking walk out on him.
Is that what it was? Was she leaving him?
No, I don't want to leave him. I love him, and he can be such a good guy, just so distant lately.
Roxy landed near their house and took out her phone, staring at the cryptic message again.
Hey, so I know I've been really distant the last couple months, and there's been a lot of stuff on my mind. Stuff I didn't even realize was on my mind, as much as it was until today. So I hope you understand how sorry I am for being so hard to be around lately. Truth is, I've got something big I have to talk to you about, and I need to do it in person. It's not a bad thing, and it's not something bad for you or us. I just need to talk to you, and then you can do whatever. Please promise me you'll keep an open mind. I love you, Rox. John, dude, what the fuck? Are you, dying or some shit? I was just saying you need to, communicate more, not beat yourself to death with your emotions. Dude, can you at least give me a heads up on what this is?
Seen by @ectobiologist. It was fucking frustrating is what it was. First he was being all reclusive and quiet all the time. Then he kind of freaked out. Well, I guess I kind of freaked out too. but it didn't seem unreasonable what she was asking him for, and now he was texting her with this vague nonsense all of a sudden, and Roxy just wanted things to be simple. Just let her do her work for the Carapacians and come home to her chill boyfriend and cuddle on the couch. She could play games with him, or they could talk about dumb shit. Or, fucking stuff. Roxy smiled to herself. Yeah, that was also fun. She got to the door of the house and stopped to collect herself. It's gonna be cool. We're gonna have a nice talk, and then we'll see how I'm feeling. And maybe we'll be good, and maybe we won't, but it'll at least be done with. Roxy opened the door, but she didn't see John. I'm in here. She could hear him calling from the bedroom. Fine, whatever. She walked to the bedroom and turned the corner to see John was wearing one of her t-shirts and her shorts. And Roxy had always been extremely smart and extremely quick on the uptake. Growing up in the world that her imperious fucking fish face ruled meant she basically had to be super perceptive all the time. So she felt like she immediately understood and felt a little bit stupid for not having picked up on it somehow. In all honesty, it was an educated guess, but a highly accurate one. Holy shit, you're trans and I didn't even realize. She put her hands to her mouth, and she was fighting to suppress a smile and laughter and crying. They were all trying to come out at once. Breathe, Roxy. Fucking breathe, bitch. Deep breath. Hold. Let it out. I'm sorry for... I didn't realize until... It's a long story. The woman standing in Roxy's bedroom was talking, and she was blushing, and looked like a completely different person than she had that morning, even with the same short hair. She looks like herself. Roxy choked down the lump in her throat at that thought and took 2 steps across the room to her girlfriend, apparently, and Roxy wrapped her arms around her girlfriend's waist and pulled her into a hug. Roxy ran her hands up her girlfriend's back and rested her head against her chest. What's your name? Roxy asked quietly. She felt her girlfriend's breath hush against her ear as she responded. June. I like that. It's you. She pressed her ear to June's chest, and she could hear her heartbeat racing. She had been so nervous. June, you... Roxy paused. She wasn't sure what she wanted to say next. This had been so unlike everything she'd been prepared for. But June felt different. Nervous and scared, but also the strange oppressive air from that morning seems to have lifted. No, it hadn't just been from that morning. It had been from the past few months. Ever since they finished the game, really. But this... It was almost like she was a different person entirely. I know this is a lot, June was saying, and I understand if you don't want to deal with it right now. I completely understand. I know I've been really shutting down in you, and I had a lot of stuff I was thinking about and not letting myself think about, if that makes sense. I just couldn't hide this from you once I figured it out. Roxy felt the tears welling up and wetting June's shirt. She gasped. Oh shit, Roxy, I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm so sorry. What can I... Shh, Roxy said, nuzzling closer to June, breathing in and smelling. June had used her soap, too. You didn't make me cry. I'm just crying. They stood like that for a minute before June spoke again. Does this mean you're not gonna like me anymore? Roxy laughed. I like girls, too, you know. Oh. Roxy could feel the heat coming off June's face. Roxy felt her girlfriend pressing up against her, wrapping her arms around her body, holding her close. Roxy, I love you. I should have been talking to you before, and I didn't. I think I was afraid of having that conversation with myself, let alone other people. I think there was a lot of stuff I was afraid to think about. She took a deep breath, and Roxy felt her chest moving and her heart beating. It was so easy to push all that down when we were struggling just to survive. Like, we always had something to work towards, and we were always just trying not to die. Roxy let herself settle on June's chest as it rose and fell with her breathing. It felt good. It felt right. So, when we got here, I just kind of lost it. I had all these things I ignored, and I always figured, well, I had to be manly and tough, because otherwise I'd be letting my dad down. I'd be letting everyone down. June's breath hitched, and she let out a little sob, just a small one, but Roxy gave her an it's all right squeeze anyway. I don't think you're letting anyone down, Roxy said quietly. I think your dad would be proud to call you his daughter. Did he ever seem like he'd rather let you live a lie than be yourself? June shook her head, and Roxy closed her eyes and leaned into the smell of her girlfriend. It was amazing how quickly the idea had taken. June felt right. June made sense. I love you, June, she said quietly. And she felt her girlfriend's heart rate skyrocket again. Alrighty. How are we doing in chat? How's everyone doing? Cool. Awesome. I'm going to keep reading if everyone's good with it. That's fair. Awesome. All right. I'll read some more chapters of this. This is a not safe for work chapter. Thank you. This is a mildly not safe for work chapter. It's probably a little less not safe for work than the other one that I read today. So if y'all were good with that, you're probably fine with this one. I'll keep reading them. Let me just check something. I don't remember how many chapters this has. Okay, probably not going to finish this today. Might finish it today. Yes, I know what chapter I'm on. All right. Chapter 12, June Egbert, Am I Loved? And as I said, this one has some minorly not safe for work elements to it. So if that bothers you, you might want to tune out for the next 20 minutes or so. Roxy was so close to her in a way that June didn't think she'd experienced in a long time. It wasn't just the physical distance. There'd been plenty of times in the last few months when they'd been physically close, physically intimate. No, it felt like there was something between them that had been moved aside. Yeah, weird how pretending to be someone else has that effect. Hey, Roxy? It felt good to have Roxy pressed up against her like this. Why are you so cool with this? What do you mean? She responded without even looking up from where she had her head rested against June's chest. Should I not be? It's just, I don't know. We kind of got into a fight, and then you come home and your boyfriend is your girlfriend, and you seem weirdly okay with all that. She felt Roxy shrug. June, I have seen some absolutely crazy shit in my life. I grew up hiding from drones that were trying to exterminate me. All the time loops and god powers and all kinds of crazy shit. You realizing you're a woman that's like the least weird thing I've experienced in my life. Have some perspective, jeez, she laughed. She didn't sound annoyed or anything. But our fight, Roxy sighed. I wanted you to open up just a little bit. Even if it was just to say, hey, I can't talk about this right now, but I will when I'm ready. But it seemed like maybe that wasn't about what I thought it was. Yeah, that was kind of surprising to me, too. And you're really okay with this? I mean, like, as far as me and you go? Roxy made a loud noise. She shifted her hips, and June found herself tumbling backwards onto the bed that they'd been standing next to. She fell back and landed softly, with Roxy straddling her knees. Roxy was grinning, her arms outstretched. Okay, let's see now. June, let me know if I'm doing anything to make you feel uncomfortable, and we'll stop right away. June was blushing. Is this actually happening? Roxy, it's not like we've never... Roxy laughed. Okay, but technically June and I have never done this, so I'm feeling things out. She leaned forward, propping herself up by her elbows a few inches from June's face. If you don't mind me asking, are you okay with your body right now? June blushed deeper. Not sure what you mean. I mean, is there anything you don't want me to call attention to? Anything you'd rather I not look at or touch right now? Feeling weird about anything? The man in the mirror. Kinda, sorta. It's hard to explain. Try me, Roxy said, smiling. Well, right after it kind of clicked, I was looking in the mirror, and it kind of felt like it was someone else looking at me. Like, it wasn't me. So that's part of why I put on your clothes, because John's clothes didn't feel like they fit me anymore. He could feel Roxy's eyes on him. She licked her lips. You actually look pretty fucking good in my clothes. Although we'll have to get you some of your own. June kept blushing. She was just going to be permanently beet red from now on. But,
Oh, wow. Holy shit. Thank you.
She knew that she sounded flustered, but Roxy didn't laugh at her, so that was good.
But so,
June tried to pick up where she left off. Why was it so hard to think right now?
after I changed clothes and I talked to Rose and Kanaya and Callie, and they were all super cool about this, and I went back to the mirror and
June took a deep breath.
I saw myself in the mirror. Saw June looking back at me. And it's not like I'm super hairy or anything, so that helped me feel, I don't know, womanly?
I mean, Roxy said, womanly is whatever you want it to be. You want to be hairy? Go for it. You're still a woman regardless.
I know, but I like the way I'm looking right now.
She couldn't quite believe she said that out loud.
I'd like to make a couple changes.
Nice. Welcome, Bucky and Clever.
I'd like to grow my hair out mainly.
So are you comfortable with your body? June swallowed. She could still feel the heat of the flesh in her face.
I guess I kind of am, yeah.
Are you comfortable with being touched?
Oh my god.
June stammered. Roxy smiled at her kindly. I'm not going to do it if you don't want me to. But if you're okay, I sure would like to. She winked.
I think I'm okay with that.
Okay, Roxy said, leaning closer and kissing June softly on the lips. You taste nice.
You're borrowing my lip gloss, too. I don't mind, but please ask next time.
June gasped away from the kiss when Roxy pulled back a little. Is that okay? Are you okay?
It's fine.
June nodded.
I don't know why, but it feels kind of different right now.
It's okay, Roxy said. We'll go slowly. She leaned in again, and once again their lips met. June closed her eyes and concentrated on the feeling of Roxy's lips against hers. She felt Roxy's tongue dart out and lick her top lip gently. Roxy said. Okay, that's nice. June's eyes were still closed when she felt Roxy shift slightly. Her lips kissed June's neck, and June felt herself letting out a little squeak. Roxy giggled.
Oh, really? That's new and different. Is it okay?
June nodded and moaned.
Oh, geez, what is happening?
It felt different, and that didn't make any sense, because physically she wasn't a different person. She had the same bits and pieces. She was just not living a lie anymore. Actually felt like herself, actually felt free. Roxy kissed her neck again, slower, and she felt something else happening, something a bit further south of where she expected.
Oh shit, I'm sorry, she said. I'm sorry.
It felt weird to be embarrassed about, considering they'd had actual sex before, but she felt weird about it now. But Roxy kissed her again and let her hands drift down a bit towards June's chest. It's okay, Roxy said softly. I don't think that your parts just magically changed. Shit, June. Girls can have dicks too, you know. Nothing wrong with that. June felt her face explode in a fireball of a blush that she desperately hoped Roxy didn't see. But of course she saw, because she was right there by June's face. But she didn't laugh. She didn't make a joke. Instead, she bent in and kissed June's collarbone. The shirt she had borrowed from Roxy left a lot of her neck exposed. Is it okay if I touch you, June? Under your shirt?
Haha.
And Roxy reached up under her shirt and ran her delicately soft fingers along her stomach, up to her chest. It was a pleasant sensation. Roxy was careful not to tickle her. She cupped June's breast, such as it was, and squeezed lightly. Still okay? She asked. June managed to whimper out an assent, and Roxy kept running her hand along June's chest and stomach. She kissed June's neck again, but this time held it for longer, sucking in slightly when she pulled back. June's neck still tingled. She whimpered again. This was a lot more than she'd expected going in. Not unpleasant, but she felt like her mind was going to blank out. Okay, Roxy said. I'm liking June so far. Definitely my kind of girl. June felt herself almost melting at that comment. She desperately hoped for at least acceptance. She hadn't been expecting this level of enthusiasm. One last question for now, though. Just kind of a preliminary thing, June. Roxy stopped kissing her neck and leaned forward, placing her lips directly next to June's ear. She whispered softly, Would you mind if...
Yeah, okay, that could work.
June threw back her head, closed her eyes tightly and moaned, and her mind was basically gone at this point. Thank you. Scandalous. Okay. Yes, that was the best time to come into this story. The only not safe for work chapter is the best time to start listening. I started this stream on the not safe for work chapter in the other story, and you come in at this one. It's a cycle. Everything is a cycle. Well, the other one was Jade, Rose, and Kanaya all having sex and doing other stuff. Anyway, chapter 13, Jade Harley, concern is my best quality. It didn't feel right leaving John alone like that. He'd seemed so out of sorts, and the whole waste time on the internet plan had ended pretty much in unmitigated disaster in every possible sense of the word.
Just gonna walk back in all casual and be a good big sister about this. Ask if he wants to talk. Ask him about his feelings. Not gonna try to distract him unless he wants you to.
Jade teleported back outside John's house with an audible pop of displacing air molecules. Her hearing, sharper than most humans, picked up on some kind of scrambling inside the house. Maybe John was cleaning up, or making more Hot Pockets. Both ends of the spectrum seemed like they might be equally plausible.
Oh, who am I kidding? He's making more damn Hot Pockets.
Jane groaned and knocked once on the door. When John didn't answer, she opened the door slowly and called inside.
John, it's Jade. Sorry, but the door is open. I'm gonna come in if you want to talk. Just let me know if you're not decent.
Jade? Maybe not the best time.
John, in the bedroom, probably crying his eyes out at this point. Poor man. But he sounded different somehow. Jane sniffed the air, keen canine snout. She smelled something odd about this. Roxy's soap? Which didn't seem surprising, given that she lived here, but something was off. Jade walked toward the bedroom and could have sworn she heard someone giggling, and a muttered, "Oh shit, shit," and more of that scrambling.
Okay, John, you better be dressed because I don't want to see my I've apparently completely lost my mind.
John and Roxy were sitting in a bed together, both blushing furiously and also grinning in a way that suggested more than a small degree of embarrassment. Also, John was apparently wearing one of Roxy's shirts and had lip gloss on. Well, mostly on. A lot of it had been smeared off. At least they'd had time to throw a sheet on. That was something.
Okay, I guess they made up. I'm not asking any follow-up questions. Jade?
That was John's voice. It sounded quiet and far away.
Don't worry, I'm intruding. I'll leave.
Jade responded quickly and turned to go. Basically, anywhere her brother hadn't just finished whatever he'd been up to.
Wait.
His voice was so small.
I need to tell you something first.
Jade turned, averting her eyes to the floor.
Okay, John, go ahead.
He cleared his throat.
I'm not June. I'm not John. I'm June. I'm a woman, Jade. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything sooner. Kind of just figuring this out in the last couple hours.
Okay. A lot of new information. John, June's trans. Interesting data point. File that one away. She. Remember that. Do you mind getting dressed before we talk?
Jade asked.
Oh, shit, yeah, June responded. Please, give us a minute.
Jade walked out of the room, shutting the door behind her and leaning against a nearby wall.
I've got a sister.
She smiled to herself. Okay, this was weird. This was going to take some getting used to. After maybe 5 minutes, Jade heard the door open and looked to see Roxy and June standing there, holding hands. June looked nervous. She was wearing Roxy's shorts as well, and honestly, they kind of worked for her. Jade smiled, all teeth and cheer.
So, maybe talk in the living room?
Roxy and June looked at each other, shrugged, and all three of them walked into the living room. June and Roxy piled onto the couch, June's legs up over Roxy's and her arms around Roxy's waist. Jade sat on the small armchair in the corner and looked over at the two women, propping her elbows on her knees and resting her face on them.
June, when did this happen?
Rude, Roxy snapped. You don't just ask that. June shook her head.
No, it's okay. I know you didn't mean anything bad by it. I guess I mean, it was always who I was. I just didn't realize. Not until today, I think.
June stopped talking and her brows furrowed.
I think a lot of it went back a really long time, but I was so convinced that I just had to be what everyone said I was. But then I realized everyone who would say that is gone and it doesn't fucking matter. So why not be myself and stop feeling like a prisoner?
And that made a lot of sense. Jade looked at her sister and smiled. June was different than John. It was strange. It wasn't just clothing. It was something about how she moved and acted. John had always felt kind of restrained, like he was trying to be something he was supposed to be, rather than something he actually was. But June felt like she was just living.
I know I've got a long way to go and a lot of stuff to figure out, but I feel like I'm at the start of a journey rather than stuck in the middle of limbo.
She shrugged and leaned her head against Roxy, who looked extremely happy to be where she was right now.
Well, I'm not sure how I can help, but I'm happy to, however I can,
Jade said. It was definitely going to take some getting used to, but she did always want a sister. Her hair.
Oh shit,
Jade exclaimed, clapping her hands to her mouth.
There is a way I can help. I mean, maybe not a lot, but June, do you want your hair to be longer?
June stared at her.
I mean, yes, but...
And it was like the little cogs in her brain clicked around once and...
Oh shit, you're a space player.
Jade grinned.
Yep.
Okay. Jade extricated herself from Roxy's lap and walked over to stand across from Jade.
All right, let's do this.
How long do you want it?
I hadn't thought about it. Maybe, about here.
June put a hand about mid-chest. Nodding, Jade concentrated, focused on what she wanted to do, and the hair stretched out as the keratin cells rearranged themselves and built up faster and faster. When she was done, Jade sat back. June was running her hands along her new hair, and her face was beaming.
Roxy, look at me!
She laughed and twirled in place, her hair flowing around her face.
Of course, Jade said. You'll have to style it and all that. Also, you may want to eat something. I had to kick up your biological processes in certain parts of your body, and I'm not very precise at that, so you may feel a bit drained.
June didn't seem to mind at all. She had already run back over to Roxy and was giggling as Roxy ran her hands through her new hair, smiling at her.
Okay, this isn't how I expected today would go, but I'm okay with it.
June turned back to Jade. Her eyes were watering.
Jade, I don't know how to thank you. It's just a little space witch magic.
Jade winked at her.
No, not that. I mean...
June stammered a little and started crying.
You're not being mean about this. And you made me take that stupid Carcat quiz. Carcat quiz? Oh, the game thing. Wait, what? I mean, of course I'm not going to be mean about it. You're my sister and I love you. I was wrong about who you were before that. That's fine. People are wrong about stuff all the time.
She smiled at June.
What about the Carcat quiz now?
June was laughing.
It's stupid. I was thinking about the quiz right before it all hit me. Because it gave me a woman character and I don't know, it was just like the one thing pushed my brain over the edge and I couldn't stop thinking about what it meant.
Now Jade was laughing. She was laughing so hard she doubled over.
Oh my God, that is the most June way to come out ever.
She looked up and June was grinning at her.
I know, right? I'm going to tell Carcat. He's going to lose his shit.
I've got to... Don't look at that. It's another reveal of things I spent too much time on. Yeah. Guess what part of this story is from personal experience? Except there was a Homestuck class spec quiz, and it took me longer than a day to figure it out after. Canine snout. I'm just reading back through chat here. Jade top tier Herbo. I like the way I wrote Jade. She's kind of like clueless sometimes, but not always, and it's fun. I'm gonna go get more water. I will be right back in a minute. Max in -3 wisdom. She is. She's like she's really smart, but really like socially clueless because she grew up on a fucking island with a dog. So she's She's that like really intelligent but kind of socially awkward. Hey, I just got back. It's fun. She's a very fun character in a lot of ways. All right. And I can do another Carcat chapter, so I'm going to make sure I take some water because I don't want to kill my throat. Chapter 14, Carcat Vantis.
You're such a dork, but also valid, June Egbert.
Read just there we go. Okay, gotta hide the little graphic thing. Carcat wasn't exactly on what anyone would call a regular sleep schedule. Lately, he'd been getting up in the afternoon and going to bed shortly after dawn. The entire time he was using to work on his websites, which would soon form the core of the Carcalicious brand on Carapacia's budding internet. The name was Dave's stupid idea, but Carcat had leaned into it, and then it had just kind of stuck. Once the Carapacian figured out domain registration, Carcalicious.com was going to go live. Carcat was up, finally, and he had his extra strong coffee and his extra fluffy blanket. He was settled in front of the computer, wrapped up and tapping away in Pesterword. Whoever back on Earth had decided to keep expanding the Pesterchum brand like that had been a sad, lonely individual, for certain. And look at the screen, for we have another Carcat application. Carcat Vantis, top 10 ripoff Pesterword.
Top 10 Carapacian ripoff movies coming soon to a theater near you. 1. Literal Die Hard. This movie is actually very not literally Die Hard, since the script was written based on Dave's account of the movie, and also, he just made most of the shit up. I hear it's gonna take like 4 years to film since the Carapacians are still figuring out how to do editing and stuff. 2. Snake Plane. Somebody misspoke and they think there was a human movie about a plane that's a snake, and that's just what we're doing now. Yes, that is definitely coming along nicely. I'm a goddamn writing genius is what I am.
Carcat grinned to himself and took a sip of the coffee. Well, coffee was being generous since it was probably about half cream and sugar at this point, but technically a coffee-based beverage. Time to write more intensely insightful criticism about the budding Carapacian cinema. Of course, it looked like it'd be a good few years before any of it even existed. But that's what getting in on the ground floor was all about. Ping.
God fucking Pester message alert sound Christ.
Carcat clicked on the waiting message, mostly just to shut it up. Oh, great. John was messaging him. Yay. How was he supposed to convey his intense emotion using small fonts? His name for June is Eggdork.
Hey, Carcat. What in the bulge-munching fuck do you want, Egbert? I've got big news. Egbert, I am a very important social media influencer now. I can't be bothered to guess what kind of news you have for me. So either spill it or get the fuck off my screen so I can write important and groundbreaking content. Okay, you're busy, so I won't waste any time. I'm a woman. My name is June. Bye, Carcat. Have fun writing important and groundbreaking content now. Wait, what the fuck? Oh shit. I've been misgendering and detonating you for like 2 years, and no one fucking told me? Oh my god, June, I feel like shit. I'm so sorry. Oh no. I just realized, like, today. I didn't realize you felt so strongly about all the gender stuff like that. Jesus, June, I'm not some kind of asshole. This is like basic courtesy on a fundamental level. Also, thank you for sharing that information with me. Aw, Carcat, you're a sweetie. No, I'm not. Shut up, Eggdork. Okay, June Egbert is leaving me alone now, so I can get back to this amazing writing I have to do. Ping. Oh god fucking damn it. Oh, I almost forgot. What? What did you forget? What in the ever-loving fuck? LOL. Yeah. I just wanted to thank you for your video game character quiz. This is gonna sound stupid, but it kind of helped me realize that I was trans, so thanks, Carcat. Oh. You're welcome?
Carcat stared at the screen, unable to process exactly what was happening. His brain turned and turned. Text message to Dave.
Hey, you still in the house?
Yo, dude, I'm maxing and relaxing in the studio, ripping out the fat tunes. What you need, Carcass Maximus?
I need you to come in here and look at something like right now.
Carcat heard the sound of Dave's footsteps as he hurried up the stairs from the studio to the room where Carcat did most of his web design work. Slightly out of breath, Dave walked up and gave Karkat a kiss on the forehead. The troll blushed and muttered something about loving Dave. Yo, what's the haps, Karkat?
The haps is this.
He turned his screen to show Dave, who took a few seconds to read the exchange. Huh. He didn't seem fazed.
Huh?
Yeah, good for her. That's cool.
What? This is like the biggest fucking deal ever.
I mean, I guess. She's just June, you know?
You're acting like this is something you've known all...
Karkat stopped in mid-sentence.
Did you do the time thing? Do you know what happens next? How am I gonna die, Dave?
Dave laughed and patted his boyfriend on the head. Sorry, dude. I was serious when I said I ain't doing that shizness anymore.
Oh, okay.
Karkat felt his shoulders slump.
Then why are you so chill about this? Like, this is big.
I know. Dave gave him another kiss. But she's who she is. We were wrong about her before, and now she gets to let us know, and we can either be cool or be jerks. Not a lot of other options, right? Karkat smiled.
You're a big fucking softy about this, aren't you? Like, she's practically a goddamn sister to you.
Dave winked at him. I won't tell if you won't. Karkat's gender is one I have not explored at all. I kind of like the idea of trans-mask Karkat, actually. Even though troll gender is a whole big ball of yarn to untangle. My hot take for the people that are listening right now is that the trolls are essentially all gender fluid and all intersex and can basically like be whatever. And that gender for trolls is largely performative, and humans don't really get that because, you know, for us it's not all performative. He's a boy, but chill about it. I like the idea of Karkat as being like really kind of like intense, I guess. Like he's shouty and kind of like in your face, but in a very self-focused way. Like he's not being aggressive. He's just like always really excited about everything and kind of abrasive, but not a bad person and not a jerk about it. So like very snarky. That's how I tend to write him. All right. Chapter 15. Rosalind, now that we've had a chance to sit a while. 2 days had passed since June had let everyone know she was, in fact, June. 2 days, and Kanaya had finished a dress in remarkable time, and then refused to show anyone, including Rose, the finished product. Because, she explained, it would be bad luck for anyone to see it before June had a chance to try it on. And that sounded like absolute horseshit to Rose, but she wasn't going to question her wife's judgment in this. So she smiled and waited patiently to see the reveal along with everyone else. Rose had suggested that they host their friends in their house, since it was large and had a massive living room that had been set up specifically for entertaining guests, on the off chance that they ever had the occasion to do so. Since this seemed like a good occasion, Rose had taken to helping set the place up. Kanaya had offered to help decorate once she was done with the dress. The end result was a massive great room decked out in colorful fabric draped from the ceiling and running down the walls. Rose had alchemized floating candles, which she insisted were not inspired by any kind of boy wizard fiction at all, to decorate the room. Food had been thoughtfully provided by Jane Crocker, who had, after hearing of the egg incident, insisted that neither Rose nor Kanaya attempt anything involving anything more complicated than pouring milk into cereal for at least 6 months. The day of the party was spent mostly with Rose bustling around and getting things ready. Jane arrived early to help with the food. June showed up early as well, and Kanaya promptly disappeared into the sewing room with her to finish fitting. Jade had told Rose about the hair, and it looked like June had styled it since then. It looked good. A bit messy in a way that looked absolutely intentional. It suited her. She'd also obviously alchemized some clothes, or bought them from one of the new Carapacian human-style shopping centers, which amounted to the same thing, given that where they even got most of the clothes from. So now June looked a little bit less Roxy, although the influence was still clearly there, and a little more June. She had bought a canvas jacket that added a bit of Vriska to the mix, and Rose almost had to laugh at that. Honestly, it didn't take very long to get everything ready. Advantages of god tier powers and all that. Once Rose was done, she basically just sat down and chatted with Jane until folks started to show up. Dave and Carcat were actually pretty early and immediately found a spot on one of the large couches. Jade came almost immediately after, grinning pretty much constantly. Jake had already sent his regrets that he couldn't make it, some expedition he was on with the Sea Nation's nascent science council in the far south. Callie, as they explained they wanted to be called from now on, arrived just after Jane. Roxy came in last and found her way to the food and grabbed herself some appetizers and sat down to talk to Jade. So now that Rose had nothing but time, she found herself nervously checking her phone. To Terezi P. at Gallows Calibrator. I know we don't exactly talk a lot, but I really need you to come back for a bit. Something really fucking big has happened. It's not bad, but you really need to come back at least this Friday night. Seen by at Gallows Calibrator. Okay, fuck it. Cards on the table time. John's not a thing anymore. She is out as a trans woman, and her name is June. Seen by at Gallows Calibrator. We're throwing her a big party on Friday, and Kanaya made her a dress, and she won't show anyone until then, so it's probably pretty fucking amazing. Hold on one second. I have to stop 2 children from killing themselves. No, these are literal children that are trying to kill each other because one of them wants to be on the television, and the other doesn't want the one to be on the television. Because this is reasonable. Oh my god. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Oh, for fuck's sake, I know you're seeing these, and this has gotta be important to you. Seen by out. Hold on a second. Yay. Children are something friggin' else. What they don't realize is if they got along, they could do shit I don't want them to, and I wouldn't ever know. That's what I did with my sister. We got away with all kinds of stuff my mom didn't want us doing because we cooperated. But they don't understand that. They tell on each other all the time. Anyway, to continue here. Yeah, no, they're still doing it. Hold on. Oh my god. All right. One of them is in bed now. Or about to go in bed. So now we're finally done. I don't know how many people are actually still watching, but that's cool. Oh my god. One of them is about to turn 11, and one of them is about to turn 13. So real great ages for getting along. Real great ages for that. Anyway, yes, indeed. Anytime there's any conflict at all, they both completely lose their shit. Like, they're fine as long as things are going well. And then as soon as anything happens, they just, like, lose it. Especially now, because they're trapped inside, haven't been to school in, like, a month and a half, and are just bouncing off the walls. Not a good combination, so. Anyway. Back to the thing. Oh, she's being so frustrating right now. Rose knew that this would be important to Terezi, and to June, too. Still, she couldn't make the troll take a break from her never-ending Vriska search to come back for a visit. They'd gotten to the point where they were seeing Terezi maybe once every couple months at the most. Rose wasn't going to say anything, but that seemed unhealthy. About 20 minutes after everyone had gathered, sans Terezi, Kanaya poked a head out to announce that everything was ready. Rose gathered up the guests and told them all to close their eyes, then did the same. And she waited. Okay, she heard Kanaya's breathy voice. You may all open your eyes now. June was stunning. The dress had been crafted of a blue silk that matched the color of her old god-tier outfit, but with the kind of iridescence to it that caught the light. It dropped off one shoulder and cut down in a way that offset June's skinny figure and helped bring out her curves. It flowed down toward the ground, slit in a way that reminded Rose of Kanaya's own skirts. She knew from experience that it would let June walk more easily. She was wearing a pair of blue flats. Heels might take some getting used to. Okay, holy shit, June looks hot as fuck. She could see the others nodding approvingly. Well, not entirely. Roxy actually whistled loudly and looked like she was about to jump up and tackle June. The rest of them nodded approvingly, clapped, and started to compliment June all at once. June was blushing furiously and scuttled over to where Roxy was sitting and took a careful seat next to her. As the others crowded around, Kanaya walked up to Rose. "Holy shit, you did a good job on that," Rose exclaimed, grabbing her wife around the waist. The troll smiled and bent over to kiss Rose on the cheek.
"Thank you, darling. I do apologize for not showing you my progress, but I wanted this to be a surprise."
Rose shook her head. "No, it's fine. I really appreciate you doing that for June. Holy shit, she looks amazing."
"I agree on that front as well," Kanaya said. "She is a highly attractive woman."
Rose found herself distractedly looking down at her phone again. Kanaya sighed.
"If she does not wish to come to visit, I'm sure she has her reasons."
"I know," Rose said. "I just really wanted her to be here for this. She and June are friends. It seems like something that would be important."
"Her search for Vriska is important to her as well. I am sure this is a complicated emotional decision in many ways."
"She could at least answer her fucking texts." Kanaya laughed.
"Terezi Pyrope is sometimes a confusing entity, is she not?"
Alrighty. How's everyone doing? No idea how many people are still in chat or on the stream. Twitch says I've got 2 people, which feels like a lie. And my users tells me I have 4. I'm waiting for... Yeah, is this the chapter? Yes, it is. Then you're going to like this chapter. Hold on, let me just check something here. Oh, okay. Oh, Hosta was apparently in chat on the Discord, which I did not at all check. I'm just letting them know they're in the Discord chat, so I'm letting them know that I had to wrangle children, and we're back now. All right. Chapter 16, June Egbert. I think I need some air. June wasn't used to this kind of attention. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it felt so vulnerable. She was just out in the middle of everyone wearing a dress, and everyone was telling her how good she looked. She was trying very, very hard not to keep blushing so damn much, and Roxy was looking at her in a way that she knew where that was going to lead sooner or later. But she felt happier than she thought she'd ever been. No one was being a jerk about any of this. Everyone was accepting her for who she was. It was all new, and it was, honestly, kind of a lot to process. She was feeling more than a little bit overloaded. So after everyone broke off to talk and eat and play a video game on Rose and Kanaya's television, June slipped out onto the deck that overlooked the lake. The moon was out, and it reflected off the surface of the water like a mirror. Beyond the moonlight, it was dark out here. The night was warm, and June could feel a slight breeze coming in from the trees. It smelled nice, and she felt happy. She wasn't alone. She could feel someone else out here with her. She turned right and saw no one.
June.
The voice to her left, a few feet away. June turned and saw Terezi Pyrope standing there quietly, smiling. June wanted to yell out, but something made her think better of it. Instead, she walked over to Terezi and bent down to embrace her friend.
"Oh, God, I missed you,"
June said. Terezi sniffled.
"I miss you too, June." You know what happened with me, obviously?"
"Yeah," Terezi said.
"Rose texted me. But June..."
Terezi pulled away from her arms and walked over toward the railing overlooking the lake. Even though Terezi couldn't see exactly, June figured she enjoyed how all this felt. June stood next to her, leaning half against the railing and half against Terezi's shoulder.
"What's up, Rezi? This is gonna sound maybe a little arrogant or silly, but I think I kinda knew already." "What?" I I think maybe because I could never see how you presented yourself, so I had to cue off a bunch of other things. Stuff that maybe you didn't even realize you were doing.
She sighed and shrugged her shoulders.
I mean, the way you carried yourself when you still thought you were a guy. It never felt exactly right to me. Little hints of self-doubt in how you talked about yourself. Bits and pieces that suggested that maybe something else was in your mind. How you dress and cut your hair and all that good stuff. None of that changes who you are inside. And I feel like maybe I got a little bit of a sense of what was inside before you were necessarily willing to talk about it. Or even think about it.
She leaned heavily into June and elbowed her playfully in the ribs.
Besides, you're still you. You were always June. You just didn't realize it yet.
She laughed.
I'm glad. It suits you really well. Bet you look fucking hot, yeah?
June blushed and mumbled something.
What was that, June? I can't quite hear you. Oh, that's such crap. She heard me just fine. I said a few people have mentioned that, yes.
June looked down towards the lake.
Feels good, doesn't it?
June didn't answer right away. It did feel good, though.
Yeah, it actually does.
Another pause. The night air was wonderful, and June was happy to have her friend Terezi here. Even though she knew that she'd be gone again, soon to go back and look for Vriska some more. June supposed she could understand. Terezi and Vriska had been so close.
Hey, Terezi, why'd you come back for this? I thought you were out there pretty much searching for Vriska as much as you could.
Terezi sighed, and June felt the weight of years in it.
Honestly, I'm not sure whether I'll ever find her. And I realize that I'm out there chasing the memory or the ghost of someone who either can't or doesn't want to be found. And back here, my friends are missing me and wondering why the fuck I'm bothering. You're not just gonna give up, though, right?
Terezi shrugged.
I don't know. Paradox Space is a fucking mess. What's left of it is pretty much a shit show, and no one knows anything about anything. And of course, the goddamn black hole is basically consuming everything back there. If she went into that, I don't know what could have happened to her. Terezi, I'm sorry.
June reached out and put an arm around Terezi's shoulder and drew her close. Terezi leaned her head against June and sighed again.
I think this round is going to be my last for a while. I'm going to check on a couple leads I had, and then I think I'm going to try coming back here and living. Just living like a person for a while. That'd be great. You should come over and see me and Roxy sometime. We'd love to have you.
June could hear the excitement in her voice.
Thanks, June. You're a hell of a girl.
Terezi reached up and kissed June on the cheek.
I'll see you in a month or two. Sorry I can't come in. I just don't want the others to see me right now. You understand?
June thought back to the way she'd been feeling just a few days ago, like the world was pushing down on her.
Yeah, I do, but Terezi, if it gets to be too much, you can always text me, or you can come back here. No judgment, no questions.
Terezi had one of the saddest smiles June thought she'd ever seen. She wasn't trying. It just wasn't quite working anymore.
Thanks, June. I'm glad you're there for me.
She squeezed June's arm and started to walk back to the edge of the deck where she'd been walking, where she'd walked up.
Oh, hey,
Terezi said as she stopped and turned back.
The dress is amazing. It smells and feels just perfect. It's you, June. Kanaya did a good job.
And with that, she was gone into the night, and June was alone on the balcony, feeling a little bit more melancholy than she had been before, but still smiling to herself. Yeah, they're I really like writing them as friends. Like I'll pretty much oh wow, I'm almost done with this. Holy crap. I pretty much ship anybody. Like you can convince me to ship or write a ship for like pretty much anything. And it takes basically no effort whatsoever. Okay, we've got it. All right, cool. All right, so Clever's out and Hosta's out. Let me see here. Yeah, right. But I also like writing characters as friends and stuff too. Like, you know, having them have actual complex relationships and not just like everything shipping all the time. Although I do love doing that. Oh, these are short chapters. Okay, I'm gonna finish this because we've got a couple people dropped out, but I've got like 10 minutes worth of reading left, so I'm gonna finish this and then we'll be done for the night. And then I'll read something else next week, and we're gonna do the community thing tomorrow. So at least one person listening, so I will keep going. This is hey, you don't. This is like T-rated intimacy stuff. It's not really not safe for work. And I don't feel like I have anyone in the chat that I actually have to give that disclaimer to anyway, so doop, 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 doop. Chapter 17, Roxy Lalonde, Open Questions. So, makeup. How you feel about that? Roxy asked. She was sprawled across June on the bed, and neither of them were wearing an especially large amount of clothing. June had alchemized some bras and panties and was wearing a pair right now. I like the lip gloss and stuff, June hesitated. Not sure I want to go all out with it, though. Feels like a lot of work. Roxy laughed, walking her fingers up June's back. Yeah, okay, I can get behind that. Perfume? Sure, June smiled at her. You're already using my soap, so that kind of answers that question already. What about... June started, then stopped. Seemed to be thinking. What about, stuff to help with my boobs and everything? Roxy laughed, but quickly stopped. I'm sorry, June, I'm not laughing at you. You just said it in a funny way. You mean like hormones and stuff? Yeah, June's face brightened. I'm sorry. I feel kind of weird still. Like, I don't really have much going on in the chest department. And my voice, I wish it were a little best, I don't know. I wish it sounded different. Roxy shifted her torso closer to June until she was basically lying underneath her. Roxy grinned. Hun, you do whatever makes you feel comfortable. If you want to do some hormones, we'll talk to your sister, Professor Science, and I'm sure she can at least point us in the right direction. June laughed. I wish going God tier had just kind of done the stuff I want with my body. Oh well. Roxy pulled June's head down and kissed her on the lips. She really did taste good. Whatever you want. I mean, I'm actually kind of happy with my body. I do wish I had boobs, but other than that, I'm actually kind of alright with things, the way they are. Roxy winked. That's fine, too. I like your body, too. She walked her fingers back down June's back and ended right at the line of her panties. June let out one of the squeaks that Roxy found so incredibly cute. Hey, June, Roxy asked. Yeah? She laughed with a little snark noise. Can I touch your butt? Sure, go for it. Roxy reached a hand under June's panties, feeling the smooth curve of her girlfriend's ass. June actually had a really, really nice butt. Like, she'd spent so much time saying that kind of thing ironically that she'd forgotten just how good it felt. Roxy noticed that she was grinding her hips into June. Sorry, she said, slowing down. It's fine, June said. I don't know how to explain this, but I feel more comfortable with all this now. I know it's only been like a week, but I still feel like I'm a million times better now that I realize I'm a girl, you know? You do seem a lot more open. She pushed herself up and kissed June's neck. Another squeak, and Roxy didn't feel like she'd ever get tired of that. She's really starting to act like a completely different person. But also, this feels more right than it ever did before. I've been kind of wondering, June said, wondering what I'm going to do with myself. I feel like I was so trapped before, like everything was there to keep me from existing, you know? Roxy wasn't sure she did exactly. Maybe not in the precise way that June felt, but she figured she got it well enough to warrant a nod. So I decided I'm not going to do that anymore, she was grinning broadly. Instead, I'm just going to live. Beats the alternative, Roxy said with a wink. Oh, ha ha, Professor Comedy. I mean, she paused and a look crossed over her face. She looked like she'd just had a couple of heavy thoughts at the same time. I mean, I'm not going to spend my days being a sad sack inside. I'm going to get out there and actually do something. Learn new things, enjoy myself. That actually sounded like a fantastic idea. You know, June continued, I always felt like I was just kind of waiting for my purpose when I was a kid. Waiting for the thing that would come along and give my life some kind of meaning. And then the game happened and everything became about that. About trying to fulfill this cosmic destiny I had. To make sure everyone got through it okay. And now that's done and I guess I kind of felt like I was just lost. She bent down, laying on top of Roxy and pressing her face next to Roxy's cheek. I feel like I didn't have any purpose anymore. Like I'd been through all that suffering and pain and came out with nothing to show for it but a broken life. I never thought that. Maybe I felt like that all along.
Maybe the problem ran deeper than I realized. It's a completely different person. Because the person that everyone saw wasn't really there at all. More like a mask. Now I feel like all that's been thrown aside and I can actually live my life again.
Roxy could feel something wet on her cheek. She reached out and gently touched June's face, wiping away the tears.
Don't cry, hon. It's okay. I know, Roxy, she said softly. I'm not sad. This is honestly the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Roxy wrapped her long arms around her girlfriend, pulling her in close and savoring the pleasant warmth of the embrace.
Me too, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tried to write them in a way where they're both, like, very close to each other and intimate, but with a little bit of humor. Because Roxy strikes me as being a kind of, like, the kind of person who does that. Like, she can be really, like, goofy for, sometimes. All right. Last chapter. How long is this one? Oh, it's not super long. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, so this will be the last chapter, and then we will stop for the night, because I've been reading for like 3 hours. This is Chapter 18, June Egbert, Reflections on a Life Not Yet Lived. A week had passed since June and Roxy had the talk about hormones that had quickly diverted into other subjects. As was becoming custom, June had gotten up before Roxy. From experience, she knew that Roxy would probably be asleep until later in the morning, and that was all right. June wasn't planning to spend the day in bed anymore, and she'd catch up with Roxy later. First, there were some things she wanted to do. To Jade,
Hey, big sis. Ready to rise and grind?
I'm ruined the day that Dave taught you that phrase. But yes, June, I'm ready to both rise and to grind. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Hell yeah. I'll meet you at Carapacia Fun Steps in 20.
She put on her deodorant and lip gloss and took a long look at the woman in the mirror. Took a long look at herself. Sports bra and vengeful bitch t-shirt, and she looked pretty goddamn good.
I like this.
Because it felt good to be herself. To not feel like a stranger was haunting her in her own house, in her own mind. To not feel like she had to put on that costume every single morning. Because it didn't feel like she was putting on a costume now. It felt like she just getting ready to go out. June padded quietly out of the bedroom and into the hallway to put on her sneakers. Jade was already waiting for her at the base of the Carapacia Fun Steps, a series of utterly pointless marble stairs that just kind of led up into the air and then stopped without connecting to anything. Jade was wearing her own workout clothes, an old t-shirt with a drawing of an atom on it and a pair of baggy shorts. She was grinning and looked excited to start.
You ready, sis?
Jade asked as June walked up. June nodded, and they started running. They took a route that ran down by the new Carapacian River and into the wooded hills just outside of town. It was a pleasant path and provided a nice change of scenery as they ran. It had started the week before when June had called Jade out of the blue and asked if she wanted to start running in the morning. June knew that her sister had found the request unusual, but she'd been a good sport about it. And so every day for the past week they'd met and they'd gone running. They didn't push themselves too hard because this gave them a chance to talk. June realized that she hadn't really spoken to her sister much, not even when they were still back on Earth, not on the Meteor. They'd had conversations about all kinds of random stuff, but they always seemed to be happening at arm's length. In the last week, she found like she'd gotten to know Jade better than in the last 10 years.
So I think I'm going to go with it,
June was saying.
The hormone thing.
All right, Jade replied, keeping pace with her sister easily.
It's an injection every couple weeks. You aren't afraid of needles, are you?
June shook her head, sweat flipping from her tied-back hair.
No, I'm good. And thank you again for doing this.
Jade waved a hand.
For my sister? Anything. I'm just glad I can help you out.
They lapsed back into silence and ran for a while longer. Once they crossed the bridge over the river, they decided to stop for a while. Panting, they sat down on the grass by the riverbank. Out on the river, Carapacians were starting to float their small boats to enjoy the beautiful day in the water.
Any more thoughts about what you want to do? Not gender-wise, but just in general?
Jade was looking out at the boats, with her hair tied back like hers. June could see that there was a lot of family resemblance.
I'm not sure, honestly. I thought maybe I'd give some of Rose's library a read. Anything in particular?
June nodded.
Yeah, actually, I was interested in learning more about how to help people heal from trauma, like therapy stuff.
Jade smiled.
That seems appropriate.
I know.
June closed her eyes, letting the warm morning sun wash over her.
We've all been through so much. I just want to help keep our friends all healthy. We're gonna be living for a long time. Might as well try to enjoy it, right? I wouldn't have said the same thing a couple weeks ago. Wouldn't have even thought it.
I think that's a wonderful idea, June.
Silence again. Peaceful and pleasant. June soaked up the sun and smiled to herself. She could hear her sisters breathing nearby, and the sound of the Carapacians calling to each other on their boats. In the background, the sounds of the city were coming to life as the Carapacians all went about their morning routines. And inside of June Egbert, there was a center of quiet. Because even though everything wasn't perfect, it was good. And even though everything wasn't the way it needed to be, it was going in the right direction. And June had made the decision to live her life the way she'd never been able to in the past. And she was quite happy about that. The end. That is the end of Heir to the Listless, my June Egbert story. So, thank you. Thank you, Fleecy, for sticking with us for the whole time, and to the other people that were in chat who may or may not listen to this on YouTube. Thanks for listening. Oh yeah, let me go to my end card. Yeah. Yeah, I really liked writing that story. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of like personal stuff for me. Not exactly the same, but similar enough. And yeah, it was actually a lot of fun to write, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever written. It's also one of the fics I've edited the most, because I've gone back and like made changes to make it better. So yeah. So tomorrow, I guess we're going to do a community read, which is going to be like other people's work. And we'll go through the recommendations. Actually, Fleecy, because you're on the chat, I wanted to read some more of Bissus, or however you say it. Bissus? I don't know. I have only seen it. I should look that up. And I don't remember where we left off, so I'm going to have to ask you that on chat, or if you could drop that in the... Yeah. I love when I hit a word that I've never actually said out loud, and then it's like, oh boy, I've got to figure out how to say this. Or like names and stuff. Yeah, but I'd like to keep reading that one and others. I was going to do that one, Love Letters in Digital Ink, which I really love. Maybe Vienna Game, which I really like a lot. And just whatever else pops up in the recommendations. So we got a lot of options. Maybe some of the Belmont's June story, which is really cool, and I love it. Yes, that would be awesome. Yeah, 0K. I'm really digging that. I really like Alternian world building stuff. I've been getting super into that. Writing the AU fic that I'm working on now, and it's really interesting because so little of it is actually defined by the comic that you can basically do whatever you want. And as long as it's engaging, no one will care. So that's cool. But yeah, no, I'll go through the chat. We can figure that out. That should be fun. So yeah, thanks for listening. Next week I'll probably do the Jade Resi story, which is I like it a lot. Oh, hey, Belmonts are still there. Cool. Yeah. That's all right. With just different people's speaking voices is fine. Yeah. So tomorrow, whatever's in the cool. D&D is fun. I've been watching Critical Role now. A friend of mine is doing a Vax cosplay, and they're making the costume, and I volunteered to be their model, so I wanted to get at least some familiarity with the character. So that's cool. But yeah, so tomorrow we'll do that. Read some stuff. Yeah, no, cool. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Glad y'all had fun. I'm gonna go and do something else for a little bit. But thank you for listening. I had a good time reading. I'm glad everyone liked my work. And I will see y'all later.